because I don't really have a presentation for that. So responsive web design is the approach to building websites so that they automatically adapt to different screen sizes and devices. Okay, so again, responsive web design into bracket RWD. So when you see people talking about RWD, they're basically talking about responsive web design. So it is basically the approach to building websites so that they automatically adapt to different screen sizes and devices. So these devices are like phones, tablets, laptops, desktops, even televisions, and over the years, even smartwatches. Okay, so responsive web design, it's about building websites so that they automatically adapt to different screen sizes and devices. So the thing is that instead of making separate websites for mobile and desktop, you create one flexible site that responds to the environment it's being viewed in. And basically, the goal is to ensure a great user experience no matter what device someone is using. Okay, so what you're talking about here, you guys, you can imagine we have all of these devices. If I right click and then select inspect again, you can see we have all of these devices here. Okay, and these are just like general devices. So you can imagine building your website for a laptop like this, and then it's breaking on an iPhone SE. You can see on an iPhone SE it's looking terrible. So now you can imagine a situation whereby you now have to create the same website. You have to build the same website for iPhone SE. Okay, and even after building for iPhone SE, when you try to view it on iPhone XR, it's breaking even further. So now you have to build the same website like iPhone XR. So the people who did this before us, the developers who came before us, they sat down and they saw that was not the approach we were going to take. Because you can imagine if that was the case, then probably web development would be the most hated career today. You can imagine you finish building an entire page like this for your desktop, or rather for your laptop, and then now you start building the same website again for your iPhone SE. You start building the same website again for iPhone XR. Once you're done with iPhone XR, you build the same website for iPhone 12 Pro. Once you're done with iPhone 12 Pro, you build the same website for iPhone 14 Pro Max, and so on and so forth. So developers sat down and they said, no way, that is not what we were going to do. Okay, so in responsive web design, instead of making separate websites for mobile and desktop, you create one flexible site that responds to the environment it is being viewed in. Okay, so we build one website like this, but we build it in such a way that it is flexible. Okay, it is flexible depending on the environment that you're viewing it in. And the goal of this is to ensure a great user experience no matter what device someone is using. Okay, the goal is to ensure a great user experience regardless of the device that someone is using. Now, there are various techniques when it comes to responsive web design. Okay, there are various techniques which we will be discussing along the way. For example, fluid layouts and a whole bunch of other techniques. Okay, but the most popular technique when it comes to responsive web design is a technique referred to as media queries. So there is something referred to as CSS media queries. Now, CSS media queries are basically rules in CSS that detect the device's width. Because, of course, to know the size of a device, the difference between this laptop, for example, and someone else's phone is the width of that particular device. So my laptop is a bit, wider, and someone else's and that particular phone is less wider than that particular laptop. So CSS media queries are basically rules in CSS that detect the device's width, orientation and resolution, and a whole bunch of other things. Okay, and then it adjusts the styles accordingly. Of course, it doesn't do that automatically with the ones who are supposed to write the styles, but basically CSS media queries, they are rules in CSS that detect the device's width, orientation and resolution, and so on and so forth. Now, when it comes to responsive web design can be approached in two ways. Okay, so this is very important. I really want you guys to listen. Responsive web design can be approached in two ways. We have mobile first design. We have mobile first design. Okay, and then we have desktop first design. So we have mobile first design, and then we have desktop first design. So when it comes to mobile first design, okay, when you hear somebody saying in this company we build our websites following the mobile first approach, so mobile first basically means you are building your website to look good on, or rather you're building your website to look good and be functional on smaller screen devices. And these smaller screens are they're definitely our mobile devices, our smartphones, our smartwatches, and so on and so forth. And then you write media queries to make your website look good on your desktop device. So that is what we refer to as the mobile first approach. So in mobile first approach, and by the way, guys, I'm going to show you what we mean by a media query. So I'm going to write one media query right now for us to be able to understand what is happening. So when it comes to mobile first design, it's basically you building your website to look good on your mobile device. Okay. And then after your website is looking good on a mobile device, you now write media queries to make your website look good on desktop devices. I really want you guys to understand that. So mobile first design, you make a website to look good on mobile devices first of all, and then once you're done, you now write media queries to make your website look good on desktop devices. And of course, as you already guessed, desktop first design, you basically make your website to look good on desktop devices, or rather on bigger screens like our laptops, tablets. Okay, not tablets. Tablets fall under the mobile category. But in desktop first design, you're making your website to look good on bigger devices like huge monitors, laptops, TVs, okay, even billboards, by the way. And then once you're done with developing your website to look good on bigger screens, you now write media queries. You now write a media query to handle the same website in your mobile. And as you've already guessed, for us, what you're doing here, we are following the desktop first approach. So at the end of the day, it's up to you to decide what you want. It's up to you and your team to decide what approach you want to follow. So in this, as you can see, I have built this website to look good on bigger devices like my laptop and even monitors. And then I'm going to write media queries to make the same website look good on smaller devices like phones and so on and so forth. So what you're doing here is what we refer to as a desktop first approach. We are building our website to look good on a desktop device, and then we will write media queries to make the same website look great on mobile devices. So I think it's now time to look at what you're referring to as media queries. Okay, and allow me to create a branch for experimentation. Remember we said how branches are important. So I'm going to create here a branch. So git branch, and the name of the branch. Okay, I know I'm aware we have two new guys who are still not yet sure what is happening in Git and GitHub. Please consult your colleagues on what is happening, and they will be able to help you. Or you can even approach me personally so that we see how we can help each other out. So I'm going to create here a branch. So git branch, and then the name of the branch is going to be RWD to mean responsive web design. And then allow me to switch to that branch. So if I run here git branch, you will see we have these two branches, production and RWD. So let me switch to this RWD branch. So git switch RWD so that we do our experimentation from here. Now, what you're saying here is the media queries. Okay, media queries are basically these rules. Media queries are CSS rules that detect the devices with orientation or even resolution. But here, what you're really interested in is to write a media query that is detecting the device width. And by the way, you can detect a lot of things when it comes to media queries. You can detect print, you can detect the orientation, you can detect the resolution, and a whole bunch of other things. But for us, we are using CSS media queries, but we want to detect the device width. Okay, so you want to detect the device width. And writing media queries is very simple. It's extremely simple than you guys might think. You basically type at, and then you can see here, we get this at media screen, the very first option that appears. At media screen like that. And then you type, okay, sorry. So this screen keyword must be there because you want to detect the device width. Okay, so at media screen, and then you type here and then within this opening and closing parentheses, you will write the device width that you want to target. Okay, so at media screen and then within this parenthesis, you target the device. You basically write the width of the device that you want to target. Okay, so we talked about maximum width and minimum width and so on and so forth. So I want you guys to see what is going to happen. I'm writing here at media screen maximum width. Okay, let us first of all start by viewing our website here normally. That way you guys see what exactly I'm talking about. Okay, So when I right click and inspect my website, I want you guys to notice here at the very top. Okay, I want you to notice here at the very top. When I'm resizing my website, we have this value here that is changing. You can see currently it is reading 1108 pixels. So that is the width of the various device. That is the width device. Okay, you can assume this is some sort of an emulator or something, because we don't have all the sizes of the laptops. We don't have all laptops of all the sizes, and we don't even have phones of all the sizes. So basically, all browsers have this tool that you can use to experiment. That we can. Okay. Who is that, guys? Okay, so I think all of us we know why we are here. So you basically do what makes you happy. Now, what I was saying, when I resize the width of this device, you can see we have a value here that is changing. So currently it is reading 1054, and that basically represents the width of the current device you are viewing. So you can take this as some sort of an emulator or something that can basically be used to, there's a word I'm looking for, that we can use to, represent some various screen sizes. Okay, so here I'm going to write at media screen and max width. So I'm going to explain what is happening here. But for example, I can write here the max width is 900 pixels, and then I can target here the body and make it to have a background color property. So background color property set to red. So save that, and right now you can see currently at 1019 pixels here. I don't know if I can zoom this in. You can see currently here we are at 1019 pixels. Okay, so that represents the device width. Now I want to notice what is going to happen when we get to 900 pixels. Just look at this at the top here and notice what happens when we get to 900 pixels. So when you get to 900 pixels, you can see the background color of the body becomes red. So when you reach at media screen and then you say here maximum width 900 pixels, what you're basically telling the browser is that any devices that are 900 pixels in width and below, so all the devices that are 900 pixels in width and below, they are supposed to have this styling up here, a styling color property set to red. Okay, so you can now see on normal devices, on device above 900 pixels, that will be the styling. Okay, and then on devices below 900 pixels, this is going to be the styling. The background color of the body is going to be red. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what we refer to as responsive web design. So if it was going to be something very complex, it's just as simple as that. Okay, so you can see how our CSS is looking like. We have our normal body stylings over here. We have our normal body stylings, but now we are writing media queries to target all the devices that are 900 pixels and below. And you can keep going here. I can write another media query at media screen and max width. Let us say here, for example, 600 pixels. And I can target the body and give it a background color property set to green. Okay, so now what you're telling the browser here is that all the devices that are 600 pixels in width and below are supposed to have a green background color. So I want you to notice what will happen. So try to look at here at the very top. Notice what happens when you get to 600. So we keep going. And then when we get to 600, you can see the background color of the body becomes green. Okay, so you can see above 600, the background color of the body is red. Above 900, the background color of the body is white. Okay, so this is the thing now, guys. Whenever you write max width media queries, you are basically targeting mobile devices. So this is usually the twister when it comes to responsive web design. Okay, so what you're saying is this: whenever you are writing max width media queries, you are targeting mobile devices. We can even try to write it here in our short notes. So we write max width media queries to target mobile devices after. And then whenever you write mean width media queries to target desktop devices after. And when I say desktop devices, I'm basically meaning huge devices. It could be a billboard, it could be a, okay, not billboard really. But anyway, any big device, a television, a laptop, a huge monitor, a desktop, a laptop, so on and so forth. So when you're building your website desktop first, you'll be writing maximum width media queries. And when you're building your desktop mobile first, you'll be writing minimum width media queries. So I really hope that we are together as far as this is concerned. Now, for some reasons, okay, you can work with this. You can work with pixels values because I don't want to overwhelm you guys. It's 100% okay. There is nothing wrong with that. Okay, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that if you want to work with these pixel values. But for some reasons, experts usually recommend you don't use pixel values when writing media queries. They usually recommend you use EM values. Okay, they usually recommend you use EM values, not REM. EM values. I don't know the reason why that is the case, but every time you see an expert building a web page, they usually use EM values in writing media queries. So for you guys, because you're still starting out, if you use pixel values, it's 100% okay, because again, we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. So if you use pixel values, that is entirely up to you. It's 100% okay. There is nothing wrong with that at all. But the moment you decide to migrate from using pixel values to using EM values, converting from pixels to EM is very easy. You will simply divide by 16 and that's it. Okay, you will simply divide by 16. So let me open my calculator here. And I want to divide here 900 divide by 16, for example, and we'll see we'll get here 56.25. So this is going to be 56.25 EM. So 56.25 EM. Okay, and as you will see, it will. Oh no, not RM, EM. I know what I'm telling you guys. So okay, thank you for that. It means you guys are concentrating. That's an awesome thing. So what I was saying is this: when it comes to media queries, not these other measurements over here, for example, the padding and font size. When it comes to writing media queries, experts recommend you use EM, and this is why I was saying, if you want to use pixels because you're just starting out, it's 100% okay. There is absolutely nothing wrong with that. It's 100% okay. Okay, but experts recommend when you're working with media queries, you use EM values. Remember when we were talking about CSS measurements, we talked about EM values. Okay, so converting from pixels to EM is very much straightforward. You just do that particular value in pixels, divide by 16, and you will get the EM equivalent. So that is what we did here. 900 divided by 16, and you got 56.25 EM. And this applies in media queries only. Of course, you can use EM units even in your font size and the width of your and in the width of your elements and so on and so forth. But now we're talking about EM in the context of media queries. So in the when it comes to media queries, experts recommend to not use pixels but to use EM values. Again, I'm not sure why that is the case, but for you guys, if you're starting out and you don't want to overwhelm yourself, it's 100% okay if you don't want to use those EM values. But converting from pixels to EM is very simple. You just take that particular value and divide it by 16. So here it's going to be 900 EM. So save that, and when we get back here, you can see it's still okay. 56.25. Oh yeah, it's supposed to be 56.25. Thank you for that, Joshua. 56.25 EM. I was almost fainting there. So you can see now at 990, and then notice what happens when we get to 900 here. So going, and when you get to 900, you can see it's working perfectly fine. Okay, so it's entirely optional. You don't have to. If this seems like too much work for you, for now, when you're just starting out, it's okay if you want to use EM. And so, one last thing, when it comes to media queries, for testing the device width, again, guys, remember one thing: media queries do more than just testing the device width. For example, you can say here at media, right now we're testing the screen width. You can even have here print or something. Okay, if you want your website to be printed. So sometimes you want to hide some elements if somebody wants to print your website. and so on and so forth. Okay, so media queries do more than just testing the device width, but in this case, we just want to test the device width. Now, you will oftentimes see experts targeting non-mobile widths. Okay, we'll oftentimes see websites, because we have some experts out here who are targeting 600 pixels, because by the way, most mobile devices start at 600 pixels. So most mobile devices are at around this width over here. Okay, so most of the times you will see experts targeting known device widths. So personally, for me, I don't follow those experts. For me, what I recommend is that whenever you want to write your media queries, you start resizing your website, and then you notice where it is going to break. And then at that particular point where it is breaking, you write your media query at the specific given. Okay. So for example, in my case here, by the way, let me just remove these media queries, because now you guys, you understand what we mean by a media query. So for example, in this case, if I start to reduce my website over here, okay, what is happening? If I start to reduce my website over here, I will notice that it will start breaking at around 600 pixels. Okay, because you can see at 600 pixels here, our host club logo is now breaking, even the phone number breaking. So now I write my first media query at approximately 600. Okay, you can see here it's reading 577, but at around 600 pixels or something is where I will write my media query to fix this header over here. And when it comes to writing media queries, sometimes we even hide elements. Okay, because some elements are kind of irrelevant, maybe let's say to desktop to mobile users and so on and so forth. So there is no shame in hiding some elements, if you know, but we will keep discussing that as time goes by. So I really hope we now get the idea behind media queries. And with that in mind, let us now make our header to be responsive. So allow me to discard this branch. So of course, remember, I don't have anything to worry about, even if I was experimenting from here, because whatever happens in one branch does not affect what happens in the other branch. So I'll start by adding all the changes here, and then commit these changes. So git commit -hem. So this commit will, it was just for testing media queries. Of course, it will not even be included in our commit history if we delete the branch. So let me switch back to master. So git switch master. Oh, sorry, it was production. Git switch back to production. Sorry for that, it was production. And then I want now to delete this RWD branch. So git branch flag D, capital D, because it contains some changes that have not been merged, and then responsive web design branch. Okay, so that branch has been deleted, and let me create a branch. By the way, you don't have to create a branch. You don't have to keep creating branches and so on and so forth. Again, it depends on how important your project is. Okay, so if you're just doing a personal project, a portfolio project, you don't have to go through this hassle of creating branches. For me, I'm doing so I really want us to practice everything we have learned until this point. So I'm going to create here a branch called responsive header. Okay, so git branch, and the branch is going to be called responsive header, and then I'm going to switch to that branch. So git switch responsive header, and now I'm inside of this responsive header branch. So now what I want us to do, I want us to make our header responsive, and I want us to start by comparing it with this final version here. Okay, so for this final version, allow me to inspect it. Okay, so for our final version, I want us to notice what is happening. So it's minimizing this and minimizing it and minimizing it, and when we get to 600 pixels, yeah, you can see for this final version, when we get to 600 pixels, there is no need for showing that top part that contains the what? That contains the contact information. So you will see above 600 pixels we are showing it, but below 600 pixels we are hiding it. Okay, so you can see in the version you're building, below 600 pixels, that particular header is breaking. So for me, in my case, because this header is not that important, that part that is showing the contact information and this host club title and so on and so forth, because it is not that important in my website, I'm going to hide it. Now, responsive media query is not about hiding elements. okay, because they can't look good on those small sizes. I'm just trying to show you the techniques that developers use. So if something is not that important, of course I can hide it and there is no problem with it. So let us write here a media query that will target 600 pixels. Okay, and you can have as many media queries as you want in your design. So for me, in this case, it's called header top, because remember it was the header top that was containing uh, all of those contact information. So I can say here at media screen like that, and max width 600 pixels, because we are targeting here 600 pixels. And then I want to get here this header top. And if I want, for example, if I want to make this look nice, I can even give it a flex direction property set to column. I'm just trying to show you guys some of the things you can do. Now you will see when we get to a smaller, when we get below 600 pixels, it's now going in a column direction, which is of course a bit better than what we had with it breaking. Okay, so you can see now targeting it and giving it a flex direction property set to column, which is quite better than what we had previously. But for me, in my case, I want to hide it completely because it's not that important in my case here. So I'll give it a display property set to none. So save that. And now when I resize this, you will now see below 600 pixels because it is not that important. We are now hiding it. Okay, so let us keep minimizing this and see what happens with our header here. Okay, or rather with our navigation menu. So there's a technique for building a responsive navigation menu, but that is a bit above us for now because we don't know anything in JavaScript. That is why I went for this manual one over here. I'll show you guys later what I was meaning. So if we look at our final version, when the screen size is not enough, you will see this blog is going to a new line. The blog link, for example, is going to a new line. And even when it's not enough, the chain goes to a new line and so on and so forth. So I think we all know what property that is. And I don't even need to write any media query. That is in our, where is that? That is in our nav list. Okay, we were giving it a display property set to flex and a justify content property set to center. But if you try to look at it right now, if there is no enough space, they are really struggling to fit in that space. So we know of a very nice property in Flexbox called Flex Wrap. So you can see with Flexbox, I don't even need to write any media queries. I can just write here Flex Wrap and then wrap like that. So when there is no enough space, they will start going to the next line, as you can see here. So when the space is not enough, they start going to the next line like that. And as you can see, our website is looking nicer. So I like testing with the smallest device. So the smallest device is usually Galaxy Z Fold 5. It's like the smallest device in terms of the width. And if you look at it, you can see on the smallest device, it will be at least something here. And so, yeah, that is so cool. And we are done with that, basically. So let me go back here to responsive. And as I told you guys, okay, somebody is unmuted. Brian, is you okay? Mute your device. Okay. Yeah, so as you can see now, our media queries have really helped us to build this. So when we have enough space, we are showing, you can see on bigger devices, this is what we have. And then when we get to smaller devices, okay, we now have something that is far much better. So this is what we call responsive web design. So yeah, that is what we have. Okay, very simple and very straightforward. So yeah, so I am still aware of this hover effect. We will come back to it. You can see when I put my cursor on this hover, it's changing the color. When I put my cursor on this about, it's changing the color, and so on and so forth. So we'll come back to that right now. For now, I'll give you guys time to digest what you've just learned in terms of responsive web design. So you will see us doing this all time, even not just me, but everyone here. You'll be doing this all time. You'll be writing media queries to make your website look good on smaller devices. Okay, and so allow me to convert these 600 pixels to EM units because, again, I really want us to use EM units. So 600 divide by 16, and we get here 37.5. So, yes? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. We uh no, this is not a variable we are defining here. Okay, let me explain it again. We said, is that a question? Okay, so we said, number one, the default values that people usually use is the pixel values. Okay, but we said we should always use rem units for, of course, for these other measurements. So as you can see now, I'm showing you the exceptions for using the rem values. Okay, so as you can see, we were saying you should always use rem units. You should always use rem units, and by default, one rem is equal to the root font size, and that is 16 pixels by default. So one rem is equal to 16 pixels. Now we said, when it came to conversion, developers were very angry because when they wanted to convert from pixels to rem, it was a lot of work. Okay, it was a lot of weird work because, for example, you can imagine your item is, let's say, 30 pixels long. So you now have to do here 30 pixels, okay, divide by 16, and then you start getting these ugly values, 1.875 and so on and so forth. Okay, imagine your item is 47 pixels in width, and now you divide it by 16 pixels to convert it to rem, and then you get 2.9375. So developers were very angry with this, and that is why they came up with this trick. Okay, you reset the font size from 16 pixels to 10 pixels, and this is how you do it. You say HTML and then font size 10 pixels. Okay, so when you do this HTML font size 10 pixels, now one rem is equal now to the root font size, which is now 10 pixels in our case because we have changed it. You can see I was writing here default because this is the default root font size. So that was for rem. Are we together, Josh? Yeah. So now conversion became very easy because now if you want your font size to be 16 pixels, 16 divided by 10, that even a nursery school kid can do it. It's just basically a matter of moving one decimal and you're more than good to go. Okay, but when it comes to convert between EM and pixels, of which experts recommend use EM for media queries, okay, when it comes to converting between EM and pixels, one EM is equals to 16 pixels. So what about 600 pixels? It's basically 600 pixels divided by 16, and you get your equivalent in EM. And as I told you guys, for now, it's 100% okay if you use pixels in your media queries. It's entirely optional. Okay, if you want to use pixels in your media query, it's 100% okay. But we really recommend that you do 600 pixels divided by 16 to get the EM equivalent. So this now is 37.5 EM. Okay, and if you don't believe me, we can go back here to our page and right click and select inspect. Okay, so you can see now we are at 867. So notice what happens when we get to 600 pixels, of which in our code it's equivalent to 37.5 EM. So if we go and keep going and going, so right now we are at 608, and then you can now see below 600, or at actually 600. I can even type here, by the way, 600. So if I type here 600 and press enter, you can see exactly what is happening. Okay, so this is it's really zooming in. I didn't want that. Let me go to 50% zoom. And yeah, so that is it about. And our header is now done. Of course, it's just one more part to go, but we will come back to it. So allow me to version control that. So git add all the changes. Git commit flag M. This commit is going to make the header responsive. And then let us switch back to the production branch and merge to the production branch. So git switch production, press enter, and now we are in the production branch. And then we merge that responsive web design, responsive header production, branch. So git merge responsive header, press enter. The changes have been merged now. Okay, so now in our production branch, we just have the media query there. And now I can safely delete that responsive header branch. So git branch flag D responsive header. Yeah. So we are more than good to go to the next thing here. And the next thing now is this hero section. Guys, we will keep doing that. You can see we have a whole website to go. So even if you've not understood what is happening, we will keep doing this until at one point it will just make sense on its own. Okay, so the next part, okay, there are two things remaining in the header. As you can see in our final version, if I scroll, the header is just staying there. But in this version here, we don't have that feature yet, but we will come back to it. So now let us look at this section. So this section is what we refer to as the hero section. Okay. And by the way, guys, when you visit your website, what you're currently looking, rather the first thing you look at is usually what we call above the fold. Okay, so by the way, most of the times we use in web development, most of the times we use in web design, they are terms that are just copied from the world around us. So above the fold is basically a term from the magazine. So when people, this newspaper people, they know what you mean by above the fold. So essentially, when you sell somebody a newspaper, you're usually folding that particular newspaper. It's usually folded, right? So what you always want to make sure is that the most important content stays at the top, at the very top. Let me try to open Excalibur, that way you guys see what I'm talking about here. So that you at least understand what we mean by above the fold. So this being somebody's newspaper, okay, still loading. But this being a newspaper, so this is the newspaper when it's kind of full. Okay, but when you're selling this newspaper to somebody, you are usually folding it. It's usually folded into half like that when you're selling it to somebody. So what you always want to make sure is that the content at this top half is the most important content. That way, at least even the users are interested in continue looking at the content of your newspaper. So even what you're seeing here is what we call, or is what we refer to as above the fold, or the hero section. So I like calling it the hero section because it's just simpler. So now let us now build this hero section. And as you can see, a hero section is made up of this paragraph, okay, introducing host club, and the paragraph has some border to the bottom. And then we have this huge text, interrelation between horses and riders. And then we have this button here called, with the text, learn more. Now, this button is what in web development terms we call to action buttons. Okay, so call to action buttons usually invite a user to take an action. So for example, here you can ask the user to get started now. Whenever you see the user, whenever you see a button written buy now, for example, that's what we refer to as a call to action. And I'm not making this up. You can literally search for call to action buttons. Yes, exactly. Call to action buttons. So the browser is hearing what you're saying. And you can just see, okay, it's just those buttons that we're talking about. Read more. Okay, if I just try to zoom this in, and right, you can see such buttons like sign up, read more. Those are what we refer to as call to action buttons. There is nothing special about them. There is nothing like a special HTML tag that you're going to use for them. They're just normal anchor tags, normal buttons, normal paragraphs, and so on and so forth. So as you can see here in our hero section, we have this introducing host club, and then interrelation between horses and riders, and our call to action button is basically an anchor tag. So this is an anchor tag. If you try to look at the bottom here, when I point on it, you can see it's showing a link there at the bottom left. So it's an anchor tag. And you can also see it has this effect. When I point on it, it's becoming, it's like scaling in. So later on, I'm going to show you guys how to implement that. So let's now start building our hero section here. And of course, for that, I can create a branch. Absolutely no need to do so. But for the sake of learning, let us just do that. So git branch, hero, and then we switch to that branch. So git switch, hero. Press enter, and now I am inside of the hero branch. So jump to our index.html, and I'm a guy who likes working with comments. So after the header, allow me to just put here a comment that says hero section, and then end of hero section, something like that. So for this section, I'm going to use the section HTML tag. There is nothing special about it. Okay, so I'm going to use the section HTML tag, and I will give it a class name of hero. I'll even call it hero section like that. So hero section. And then inside of this hero section, you can see we have this paragraph, this text, and this learn more button. So I'm going to put those three inside of a div. So I'm going to have here a div called hero text box because it contains some texts. And then the first text here is paragraph, which I'll just call it hero text box paragraph. Okay, again, you can name your class names whatever you want to name them. So here is introducing host club. Let us just write that. Introducing host club. Then I have the heading. Can use there a heading 1, hero text box heading. So this is just normal HTML. And allow me to copy this text. Interaction between horses and riders. Interrelation between horses and riders. And now our final, I'm going to use an anchor tag for our call to action. So I'll say here anchor tag and then hero text box CTA. So CTA means call to action. And then the link is going nowhere. I can even have here my GitHub account, no problem with it. https://codeme254. And they said you want this to open on a new tab. So we'll say here target is equal to _blank. And then you can say here learn more. So save that. And if we look at our page here, you can see that is exactly what we had. So we have introducing host club, interrelation between horses and riders, and then our learn more button basically here. Okay, so first things first, if we look at our final version here, our hero section has nice background image, and that background image, as you can see, we have it in our images, and as you can, we have here herobg.jpg. So this is the image we are using as the background in our hero section. Okay, so just to see what is happening, okay, let me first of all have a comment here. Hero section, and then end of hero section stylings. So hero section stylings, and then end of hero section stylings. And let me start by copying this class. Okay, and because I just want to see, again, I just want to see how big my, not how big my hero section is, but I really want to see the background image in full. So for that, what I'm going to do for now, but I'll come to remove this later, I will give it here a height of 100 view heights for now. I will come to remove that later. And just to prove to you guys that it is 100 view heights, I will give it a border of 2 pixels solid red, so our favorite debugging line. And if you look at it, you can see whatever red line you're seeing, that is the hero section. Okay, but we will come to remove that height. Remember, we said we don't like giving our elements a height unless we are absolutely sure about it. So that red line cannot be seen. Maybe I should try something like 5 pixels, which is even more visible. So now you can see we have this red line that is exactly 100 view heights. Okay, it's exactly 100 view heights as we had line in our CSS units. So you want to give it this background image. So for that, we're going to use the background property like that, and then you use the URL whenever you want to work with a background image. And then you said inside of this URL, you provide the path to your image. So right now, as you can see, my CSS file, which is where I now provide the path from, it is in the same directory with the images file. So I will simply do here, from the current directory, which is in now this SRC directory, I want to move into, just a second, I want to move into the images directory, as you can see, like that. And in the images directory, I want this herobg.jpg, like that. So herobg.jpg. And when I save that and we look here at our final version, you can now see we have our hero image. But right now it's extremely huge. As you can see, it's extremely huge. So I want it to fit the element. So I'm going to use the background size property. And as we know, we only have 2 values, contain and cover. Of course, we have the default, which is auto. That is why, as you can see, the image is too huge because it's trying to maintain its aspect ratio. But I want it to fit the element that we have here. because I mean, I want you guys to look at the image here. Okay, of course, Visual Studio Code is trying to show it in full, but the image is extremely huge. That is why you can see it's going out of our view. So I'm going to use the background size property to make it occupy the element. So background size, and remember we have three values: auto, contain, and cover. So auto is the default. The image will basically be rendered as its normal size, and then contain, the image will try to maintain some sort of an aspect ratio, and then cover, the image is going to cover the entire element. So here in this case I want to go here with cover. So save that, and if we look at it now, you can see it's working perfectly fine. Okay, and yeah, I believe it's quite something in those lines, but we'll come back to work on that. And then when you look at our final version, you can see we have another background on top of this background here. Okay, so we have another linear gradient background on top of this other background. So that is something that we usually do a lot of times. So you can stack backgrounds on top of other backgrounds. So in this case, for example, I can put a linear gradient. On top of this image, like that. So you can see I'm putting a background on top of another background. And if you want, you can even put here another URL for another image and so on and so forth. So for me, I just want a linear gradient, okay? And I can't go here with, for example, black and black, because of course for our background, we need more than one color. I can't go with black and black because it is going to cover everything out here. So I want to go with something that will allow for some sort of an opacity. And that, of course, is the RGBA. So RGBA, and our black color is 0, 0, and 0. And then we can go here for an opacity of, let's say, 0.8 or something. So we'll come back to that. And as you can see, we start seeing some opacity here, but of course it's not yet perfect. So let's go to the other one as well here. RGBA 0, 0, 0 for our black color, and then 0.8 as well. So we will come back to this. And yeah, you can see we start to have something at least. So this is darker. This is very dark than what we have here. So let us change that. We can go with, I don't know, maybe 5 by 5. Okay. And as you can see, we are changing our values here in two places. So it's a good idea to have them inside of a variable. So I can say here another variable called hero section gradient, and then have this value, so that we don't have to change our values in two places. So just a second, guys. So cut it from here and have it here. So we should have here now our var function, and then hero section gradient for the first one, and even the second one here, variable, and then hero section gradient, like that. So it is just the same thing, but now we are using variables instead. And yeah, I think that's quite something. Not yet perfect, but I believe it's kind of what you're looking for here. Okay, so there is nothing new here. We are just using a variable instead of having these values here manually, which is far much better, because now as you can see, I'm only now changing it in one. Say here, for example, 0.4, and if I save it and look at our final version, yeah, I think that one now is even better than what we had. Okay, so now these ones here should be very easy to style. Okay, so I want to start by putting this text box. You know this hero text box here? Let me first of all grab it and give it a. That way we are all able to see what is happening. So this hero text box, I want us to see what is happening here. So dot hero text box. Let us give it a border of 2 pixels solid red, because we still want to see what is happening. Okay, so this hero text box here that has this border of 2 pixels solid red, we want to throw it all the way to the center here. Okay, and for that, of course, we'll use flexbox. So the parent element, which is this hero section, we will give it a display property set to flex, and then of course we'll now have our cross axis and our main axis. And when we set justify content to center, it will be brought to the center of the main axis, and align items center, it will be brought to the center of the cross axis. So again, that is our nice trick here to center elements. Display property, we set it to flex, justify content center, and then align items center like that. So if we save this and we look at it, you now see our hero text box here is now at the very center. Okay, and then I also want to give this hero text box here a width, because I remember I gave it a width in the version I was building. It was a width of around 60%. And let me give it that width. So a width of 60%. And I'm just doing that because it has to use that to learn CSS media queries. Yeah, so it now has a width of 60%. Okay, and also, even for this text box itself, I want to put all of these items to the center. So introducing horse club should go to the center. Interrelation between horses and riders should go to the center. And even this learn more should go to the center. So again, for that, we use our favorite friend, Flexbox. So display property here, we set to flex. Okay, so when we save that and we look at it, you can now see our items side by side, but in this case we don't want our items to be side by side, so we use flex direction property set to column. So flex direction column like that, and as you can see now the direction is in column. But now, okay, sorry for that. So the advantage that we have now is if we set justify content property to center and align items to center, all of these three items will now be brought to the dead center here. So let us do that. Justify content center, and then align items center like that. And look at that. We have all of the three of them now in the center. Sorry. We have the three of them, the text, the title, and the link, all of them now in the center, the same way we have them in our final version. So let us start by styling this heading over here. Okay. Of course, we want it to be white in color. We want it to be very huge, and all of those other styling. So I'm going to copy this class over here, hero text box heading, and then I will style it here. So hero text box heading. I will start by giving it a color. So color, and then variable, we have our color white in our variables here. So color white. And if you look at it, you can now see it's white in color. I want to give it a font size, because you can see here it's extremely huge. It has this huge font size here. And you can even see the text is capitalized. So I is in capital, R in capital, B in capital, H in capital, and so on and so forth, which we don't have here yet. So text, transform, capitalize, and that should capitalize our text if you try to look at it. Okay, and then we change the font size to 50 pixels. So 50 pixels is going to be 5 frame. So font size 5 frame. So save that, and yeah, you can now see it is that huge. And then of course finally we want to align text to the center. So if I just do text align center, it will be brought to the center here. So text align center, and if I save that, you will now see that it has now been thrown here to the center. Okay, and then I want to give it some margin. Okay, we'll come back to that. So the next thing I want us to style is this here, introducing host club, this text here, introducing host club. So as you can see, it's supposed to be white in color among other styling. So let us just do that. Guys, my machine is really hanging because I'm running OBS Studio, but we will survive. So copy that. And just to maintain the source order, I will style it from here. So hero text box paragraph, I want to give it a color property set to white. So color white like that. And if we look at our final version here, you can see it is white in color. I also want to make it uppercase. As you can see, this one here is in uppercase. So give it text transform property. So text transform property set to uppercase. Okay. Yeah, there we go. And then if you look at the final version here, you can see we have some spacing. Okay, we have some spacing between the letters. So some very small spacing. I can't remember, was it 2 pixels or 3 pixels, but it was something around there. So we also want to do the same thing. a letter spacing of around 3 pixels, like that. So if you look at it, yeah, you can now see we have that nice 3 pixels letter spacing. And then after that, I also want to give it a border. Okay, so I want to start by just giving it a border, and then you guys will see what I'm about to do here. So a border of around 2 pixels solid. So you can see for values that don't really matter, for example, the size of a border, that will not really influence anything in responsive design. That is why I'm using pixels, these absolute values, because they're not really that important. Okay, so for example, the size of this border over here, it has nothing to do with whether our website will look good on desktop or mobile devices. So in such a case, I don't really care. So 2 pixels solid, and then we want here the primary color. So maybe color primary. Let us go with the dark one. If it doesn't work, we'll go with the light one. Yeah, so there, as you can see, we have our border. By the way, allow me to just remove this red border on the other one, because it is kind of disrupting us. So on the text box, we remove this red border. Okay, it was just there for debugging purposes. And then what I want to do, I want to give this text box over here a padding to the top and the bottom, and the left and the right. So a padding of around 10 pixels to the top and the bottom, and a padding of around 50 pixels to the left and to the right. So remember, for that we said we're supposed to use the padding property like that. And then if we supply 2 values, X and Y, the first value will be used for the top and the bottom, and then the second value will be used for the left and the right. So 10 pixels, that is going to be 1 rem to the top and the bottom. And then 50 pixels to the left and the right is going to be 5 rem, like that. So save that. And now you can see that border is working. But now I don't want this border everywhere. I only want that border to the bottom. So we said you can also supply border to specific sites. So I will simply say here, border bottom, 2 pixels solid, and then that particular color. And as you can see, it ends up being like what we have here in the final version. Okay, so finally, let us now work on this call to action button. So if you try to look at the final version, you can see it is white in color, text is capitalized. Okay, the underline has been removed, as you can see here. The underline has been removed, and it has this nice background color. So let us do that. So we are going to start by targeting it. So it's called Hero Textbox CTA. Here it is. So Hero Textbox CTA, and then so .hero textbox CTA. We want to start by giving it a background color of our primary color. Of course, we should come to change that, because it's not really a background color, it's a background gradient, but we will come to change that. So you can see we have that one. The next thing you want to do is to make it white in color and remove that underline. So color, we want to go with that white color. Where is our, yeah, here we go, color white. Save that. And as you can see, it's now white in color. We also want to remove this underline. So if you want to remove the underline, you set the text decoration property to none. Okay, so the thing is that almost all the links in our page, okay, almost all the links in our page, because you can see this is not the only link we have. We also have another link here, which we will set the text decoration property to none. We also have another link where we also have other links here, which we will set the text decoration property to none. And even here in the bottom, we have this other link here, which will set the text decoration property to none, and so on and so forth. So that is another part of CSS reset that we usually do. Okay, so I can just go here where we're targeting all the elements here, okay, and set the text decoration property to none, where we're targeting all the elements here, text decoration none. So now in the future, any other anchor tag that I'm going to add to the page, it will not have that text decoration, because they're usually ugly and we don't really need them. So text decoration none. And when I want to add that text decoration to any anchor tag, maybe we have a specific anchor tag that needs it, then I will just do it manually there. So here I'm setting text decoration property to none. And now even here in the header, where we had the links, where is that? Here, we now don't need to put this property here anymore, because we've now done it under the reset part. So it is just that one change. And now if we try to look at our page here, sorry, not that one. If you try to look at our page, you can see it's still working perfectly fine. The original links for the navigation, they don't have that anchor tag, and even this one. So here we also want some padding. I want a padding of 1 rem to the top and bottom, and a padding of 2 rem to the left and to the right. So a padding of 1 rem to the top and bottom, and 2 rem to the left and to the right. And if we look at it, you can see the padding is coming to life. And if we look at our final version here, you will notice that the text is also capitalized and a bit thicker, not too thick, but just a bit thicker than what we have. So I will say here, text transform, capitalize, and a font weight of, we can go with maybe 500 or something. And that should work for now. Yeah, exactly. Now I want you guys to notice something. If we look at the edges of our element here, so you see the problem with giving your elements a height. You can see it's overflowing, but of course we're coming to change that. If you look at the edges at this corner, if you look at the corner of this link over here and compare it with the corner of this link here, okay, and compare it with the corner of this link, you will see that this corner here is a bit rounded. Okay, this corner here is a bit rounded, and this corner is sharp. So to change that, if you want rounded corners in CSS, you usually use the border radius property. Border radius. And I want to start with a very huge value so that you guys see what we really mean by border radius. So if I go here with 100 pixels, okay, you can see what we mean by border radius. So basically the element has now these rounded corners. Okay, let me go back to 100% zoom here. So you can see the element has these rounded borders. Okay, so but in this case, you don't really want 100 pixels in border radius. We just want something small, maybe something like 5 pixels. And even for this border radius property, you can set the border radius on specific sides. You can set the border radius to the top left, to the top right, to the bottom left, and to the bottom right. But as you can see here, I'm simply doing a border radius of 5 pixels. And guys, you can literally search for a border radius generator. Very simple trick I showed you guys. Border radius generator, something like that. And you will get here a lot of websites that will help you to generate border radius. So let us wait for this one here to open. Okay, once it opens, we'll come back to it. Actually, it's done. Okay, so you can see I can set the border radius for all the corners like that. I can set the border radius for the top left like that. I can set the border radius for the top right like that. I can set the border radius for the bottom left like that. And I can set the border radius for that other part. So that is the border radius property in CSS. We had not tackled it, but now we have done. Okay, so that is it about it. And now finally, for this heading here, this heading specifically, I want to give it some margin to the top and to the bottom. Okay, that way this paragraph gets pushed to the top and this link gets pushed to the bottom. Or rather, we have some breathing space. So here goes the heading. I'm going to give it a margin of, let's say, 3 rem to the top and to the bottom, and 0 to the left and to the right. So I don't want to change it to the left and to the right. That is why I'm doing here 3 rem to the top and to the bottom, and 0 to the left and to the right. So if I save that and we look here at our final version, you can see that is exactly what we have, something at least in those lines. And now we can go back and remove the ugly properties. So for example, we don't really want the height. Okay, even this border, we are done with it. Are we really done with it? Okay, we're not yet done with it. We'll come back to it. But for this border 5 pixels solid red, we are done with it. And even this height of 100 view heights, we are done with it. So if I save that and I go back here to the page, you can now see this is what we have. So I want some space between the content. Okay, you can see here we have some space between the content and the border. So I want some space between the content and the border, and we say the property for that is padding. So I want a padding of 100 pixels to the top and to the bottom, and maybe I don't know, 1 pixels or something to the left and to the right. So 100 pixels, that is 10 rem. So I'm going to do it somewhere here. So a padding 100 pixels is 10 rem to the top and to the bottom by, I don't know, very small padding, around 1 rem or even 2 rem to the left and to the right. So if we save that and we look at it, there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, of course, not really perfect with what we have here in the final one, but at least it's quite something. Okay. So how responsive is our web, is this hero section? So let us look at how responsive it is. I'm going to right click and then select here inspect, and it's not really responsive at all. Okay. In fact, let me start by bringing this border here. So I was specifically putting this width of 60% for us to use it for learning. Okay. So you can see on these devices like this one over here at 1053, you can see it's quite nice. It's not bad. Okay, but when you start reducing this, you can now see we start losing the sweetness of our web page here. So let us look at what we have in our final version. I don't know why my browser keeps behaving like that. So right click, inspect. Okay, so in our final version, as you can see, at around 900 pixels, you can see at 909 it was breaking, but below 900 pixels, okay, we are still so much on. And if you continue reducing it, okay, you can see we get to a point where we reduce the font size and so on and so forth. So let us write those media queries. They don't have to be perfect with the final version, but we just want something here very simple. So even me here, below 900 pixels, okay, at 900 pixels and below, I want now this text box here, as you can see it is red in color. I want to utilize as all the space that I have. So at below 900 pixels, I'm going to make it be 100% in width. That way it occupies 100% of the parent element in terms of the width. So that is 900 pixels. If I want, I can convert it to EM, but because I want us to move together, let me just not convert it to EM. I will use it as pixels as it is. So at media screen and maximum width, 900 pixels, and then I'm going to target here the hero text box and give it a width of 100%. So I'll just make it occupy all the space that we have, like that. And so as you can see, at this point, at around this point, it was breaking, but below 900 pixels, we are giving it back all the available space. So we continue reducing this, and yeah, I think at this point you're still very much in. So maybe below 600 pixels, we should change the size of this heading 1 element here. Okay, so below 600 pixels, we should change the size of this heading 1 element from 5 frame to something smaller. So below 600 pixels, we have here our text box heading. So below 600 pixels, so at media screen and max width like that, 600 pixels, and then you want to target here our hero text box heading. Where is that hero text box heading? And then we change the font size. So on smaller screens, we don't want all of that font size. We just want a small font size of around 3 rem. Okay, so you can see now on smaller screens, the size is even smaller. And if you try to compare this with the smallest device, the Galaxy Z Fold 5, you can see it's still something. So maybe we should align this text here to the center. This introducing host club, it should be center aligned. So that is the paragraph. Text align center like that. And if we look at it here, I think this is better. It's not perfect, but at least it's something. So I can remove this red border here, like that. And yeah, so this is, it's something at least. So if you go back to responsive, you will see that it's very much responsive. So on bigger screens, it's looking nice, but on smaller screens, it's also looking nice. Great. That brings the hero section to the end. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? So we start by formatting our code with Prettier, and then we add those changes to Git. So clear, and then Prettier, flag write the entire directory. So you will notice our HTML here is going to be fixed by Prettier. Yeah, exactly. So Prettier has done the dirty job for us to make it look even better. And now we can add all the changes, and then you can commit all the changes. So git commit flag M. This commit is going to build the hero section and make it responsive. So let us switch to the production branch. So git switch production, and then we merge the hero section. So git merge hero like that. And yeah, we're more than good here. And yeah, I think now we can push all the changes. So we can just run here git push to publish all the changes to our remote repository like that. So do you have any questions regarding that? Yes, ask your question, please. Yeah, this line here, yes. So this line is what you're asking. No, it's a border to the bottom. We used border bottom for that. Okay. It's just design. There is nothing specific to it. So you just build a website the way you want. So you can see it's border to the bottom. Border bottom 2 pixels solid. If I remove it, if I just comment it and save it, you will see that it has gone away. So it was just a border to the bottom, a border bottom of 2 pixels solid, and then the color there. No, text decoration and border, they are completely different. Text decoration deals with underlining, overlining, or striking through a piece of text. But border is the line that appears around an element. I was not intending to underline this text over here. This is just a design. So yeah, you can imagine maybe somebody who was doing Figma, alikuletea QID. So it's just a design. It has nothing to do with me wanting to underline this text. So yeah. So the next section is very simple. We will be done with it within, I don't know, 10 or 20 minutes. But it is this section over here, the section that I call the about section. Okay, so this section is talking about what we do at Host Club. So let us start by designing the markup for that. So I'll go here to my index.html. Okay, so I want here a comment. I can just say here about section, and then end of the about section. So you want to use the section element, and I'll call this about section like that. Okay, and as you can see, the about section is made up of these two elements. So we have not really elements, but if I was the one designing this, because you can see these two things over here, they are side by side. It means we are setting a display property to flex somewhere. Okay, so we are going to have an about section that will contain all of this text. We are here to take care of your horses. We are your horse's best friend, and then all of this text and this call to action button. Okay, and then we are going to have the other side that contains this image over here. So let us do that one by one. So I'm going to have here two divs. So the first div is for the about text box. Okay, and then the other div is going to be the about image, about img, and basically the image you're talking about is this image over here. So where is that? This one, about img. Okay, yeah, this is the image that we want to use. So I'm going to share the img property. So inside of this about image, I will set the img property. src is equal to, we want to get into the src directory here. Okay, and in the src directory we have the images folder, and then we want this about img.jpg. So I can just say here horse running, something like that. I don't know what that horse is doing, but you can just say something like that. So we now have this side that is made up of the about image, the image, and then this side that is made up of text box. And you guys, you will notice that I'm doing that from the production branch. Okay. Again, I told you guys, you don't really have to go around creating branches when it's your own personal small project. Okay. But depending on the importance of what you already have implemented, then maybe using branches might be a bit important. So now in our text box here, in the about text box, so you can just have here the about a paragraph with the class about text subtitle, and then we have this text over here. So we are here to take care of your horses, that text. And then we are going to have this title. So I'm going to use a heading 2 for we are your horse's best friend now and forever. So h2 dot about title, we are your horse's best friend now and forever, and then the paragraph. So you can just call this, I don't know, about section description or something. So p dot about, let's just say description, about description, like that. Okay, so about description, and then finally we want that anchor tag, or rather that call to action. So I'll just call this about CTA, or rather about call to action. And I'll still just use here my GitHub link, github.com/codeme254, and then target is equal to _blank. So get started now. So save that. And now if we go back here to our page, you will see that this is exactly what we have now. Okay, we are here to take care of your horses and blah 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 and all of those other things. So for now, just for now, and I'm saying for now, let me just give this horse a very small width. So a width of, let's say, I don't know, 200 pixels. This is just for now, because you can see it's really overflowing our content over here. It's making our page to overflow. So I'm just giving it a small width of 200 pixels, but we will come back to change it later on once we are done. So my browser is really hanging, but it's okay. Now we want this side over here. We want this side containing the text and the side containing the host to be side by side. So because we want to do that, we look for the parent element, and the parent element that is holding the about text box, like that, and the about img, like that. That parent element is this about section. So we copy that about section, and then we jump here to our CSS. So we have here the about section stylings, and then the end of the about section styling. So end of the about section stylings. So because that is the parent element, we're going to give it a display property set to flex. So display flex, and that is going to throw them side by side. It's going to put them side by side like this, as you can see. Okay, so they're going to be side by side. Now, with that out of the way, I want this text box over here to occupy the exact same width as what we have here for the image. So I want to target both of them and give them a width of 50%. So as you can see, let me just try to minimize it here using this feature in VS. You can see we have the about text box and the about image. So you have this about image and this about text box. I want to give both of them a width of 50%. So copy this about text box. Okay, so we're going to ping selector. So the about text box, and then you also want the about image. So remember the grouping selector where you get multiple elements and give them the same styling. So about text box and about image, I want to give both of them a width of 50%. And of course, our favorite debugging line, a border of 2 pixels, solid red. So if we save that and we look at it in our final version, you can see basically that is what we have here. So we have this place here where the host is coming to occupy, and then we have this space over here containing the text box. And by the way, guys, as you can see, this is so annoying to look at. I want to give this about section some margin to the top and to the bottom. That way, at least we place it here to the center, where we will be able to see exactly what you are working on. So I will give a margin of around 100 or even 200 pixels, because of course I'm coming to remove this to the top and the bottom, and of course nothing to the left and to the right. So the only reason I'm doing that is because I want this about section to be here at the center. But of course, we're now coming back to, we will come back to remove those margins or whatever. Okay, so I'm going to show you a very neat technique for styling this image to fit this space. But for now, let us start here with this text box side. Okay, so let us remove this red border because we don't really need it anymore. Okay, so I want us to start with this. We are here to take care of your horses. So if we compare it with our final version, you will see that our final version is very small in terms of the size of the font, and it also has a different color. So I'm going to use a font size of 1.4M. And we are really using 1.4M a lot. So probably it's a good candidate for a variable, but I'm not going to do that because it will just create more confusion. So this text over here, I'm going to give it a font. Okay, I'm going to give it a font size of 1.4M because, as you can see, it's a very small text. If we look at our final version here and you compare it with this one, so 1.4M, and then what else? I want to give it the color, this primary color here. Okay, so let us do exactly that. So a color, okay, color, and then var, and then color primary. So save that, and if we look at our final, if we look at it, you can see exactly what we have. And then we need to give it some margin to the bottom, around a 1 rem margin to the bottom. So let us do that. A margin to the bottom. Come on, a margin to the bottom of, let's say, 1 rem. So if I save that and I look at it, you can now see we now have that nice 1 rem to the bottom margin. Next, I want us to target this title over here. We are your horse's best friend. So if I go back here to our index.html, that is the about title. And of course, as you can see, the text has been capitalized. The very first letter of each word is in capital letters. So that is text transform capitalize. And then maybe just change the font size here to be around 2 rem, if I can remember correctly what font size it was. Okay, 2 rem is not really working. Maybe we should try 2.4 rem for 24 pixels. 2.4 rem. We are your horse's best friend now and forever. Is that really working? Maybe we should try 3 rem. 3 rem. 3 rem. Yeah, I think 3 rem is what you're looking for. Yeah, we will go with 3 rem. We will go with 3 rem. And then I'm going to give it a margin to the bottom. Okay, a margin to the bottom of around 20 pixels. As you can see here, this is around 20 pixels. So where is that? A margin to the bottom of 2 rem. So 20 pixels is 2 rem based on our conversion. Yeah, there we go. And then for this text over here, as you can see, it's small. Again, that is 1.4 rem, if I am sure of it. And as you can see, we have some line height, some very nice line height here. Okay, so let us do that. And for that, it is the about description. So copy this. And the about description, I will give it a font size of 1.4 rem. Okay, so just a second. Yeah, as you can see there, we have it. And then some very nice line height. Line height. And then I remember we said line height is provided in ratio. You don't use a length unit. You just provide a value like that, and CSS will know what to do. So 2, as you can see, that is very much perfect. And then I also want to give it a different color. That is the grayish color that we have. So color, a variable. So as you can see, guys, I hope these things are now becoming easier. So color gray is what you're going to use there. And yeah, there we go. And then I'm going to give it a margin to the bottom of around 1 rem so that it pushes this link here to the bottom. Or rather, it creates some space. So margin to the bottom, margin bottom of around 1 rem, which is 10 pixels. And yeah, there we go. So now finally for this link up here, you can see the text is capitalized. It is white in color. We have some padding to the top and to the bottom and the left and the right. And then, yeah, it has the background color of black. So that is the about CTA. So this one here, about call to action. So copy that. And then about CTA, we want to give it a background color. Come on, background color of the black color that we have. So color black like that. And then you also want to give it a white color variable, color white. And then we want to capitalize the text transform, capitalize. So save that, and going back to our page, you can see that is what we have. The text has been capitalized, it has a background color, and it has white text. And then finally, I'm going to give it a padding of around 1 rem to the top and the bottom, and 2 rem to the left and the right. So padding 1 rem to the top and bottom by 2 rem to the left and to the right. And yeah, there we go. So maybe the padding is too big, but of course we don't really care about it for now. We can even reduce the font size to 1.4 rem. Font size 1.4 rem. Yeah, I think this is now far much better than what we had previously. So the text box side is done. So let us now go back to this image side. And now for this image side, I want to show you guys a very neat trick when it comes to working with images in CSS. I'm not the one who discovered this trick, okay? So the developers who came ahead of us, they really faced all of these issues, and they kept working and researching until they came up with these tricks and these hacks. So when I say something is a hack or a trick, even probably even the CSS organization, the organization that is maintaining CSS, probably they don't even know about it, but the community that has been doing CSS all the time, they know the things that are going to work and the things that are not going to work. Okay, so now as you can see our image here, okay, as you can see we have our image here, and we said we should avoid as much as possible to give our image a width and a height and all of that. So where is that image? Yeah, here we go, about IMG. I can even give it a class here. So class is equals to about IMG image, something like that. We can, okay, we will call this the image wrapper because it is wrapping the image, and then the image itself. Okay, so we said we should always avoid. So let me just copy. This is the class for the image. Okay, this is the class for the image. We said we should always avoid giving our images a what? A width and a height. So if I try to give it, for example, a width of, let's say, 40 rem for 400 pixels, and a height of, let's say, I don't know, 20 rem for 200 pixels, we know very well it is going to destroy the aspect ratio of that image. Let me remove this width over here. That way you guys see what you're talking about. We said it is going to remove it is going to destroy the aspect ratio of the image. You can see this image is giving me a lot of troubles when it comes to styling it. Okay, and you know, even if I remove this height over here, okay, you can see 40 rem, it's still not going according to the parent. Where has the red border gone? About, oh, sorry, I have changed the class. So about image wrapper. Okay, so dot about image wrapper. Sorry for that, guys. So if I go back to the page here, you can see the image is giving me a lot of problems in styling it. So I want to give it a width of 100%, and you guys will see what you're trying to talk about. So the image itself will give it a width of 100%. That way it fills the parent. Okay, so for that, as you can see, it's working, but we still have some space over here. Okay, there is no need even for me to try to reproduce the problem here, but we know the issue with images when it comes to CSS. Now, developers over the years, they have researched and they came up with a very neat trick. So usually what you're supposed to do, you're supposed to have your image inside of some sort of an image wrapper like this one. Of course, it's not compulsory, but it's 100% optional. So you can see for me, I'm putting this particular image inside of this div with the class of about image wrapper. So what you're supposed to do, you give this about image wrapper some dimensions, and then you make this image fit to that about image wrapper, and it's easier than you might think. So for example, in this case, let me copy this class about image wrapper. Let me show you exactly what you're talking about, and allow me to remove this red border. Okay, so we know very well that the about image wrapper has a width of 50%, which is very good. So let me start by giving it a border of 2 pixels, solid red or something in those lines. Okay, so we know very well it has a width of 50%. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to give it a height of around 30 rem for, or rather 300 pixels. Now, once you do that, once you give this particular the element wrapping the image a width and a height, just write these lines of code. You can literally cram them. So give your image a width of 100%, a height of, what is that? A height of 100%. Display property here we set to block, and then object fit property. Okay, why is my laptop behaving like this? Object fit cover. Okay, I know we did not look at this property, object fit cover, but just cram this. Please just cram this with 100%, height 100%, display block, object fit cover. So we give the image wrapper some dimensions, and it doesn't matter whether it's the width and the height, whatever you want to give it. And then we style the image to fit into that particular wrapper using these properties. And the magical property in this case is this object fit property set to cover. And if you go back to our page here, you will see that the magic is working perfectly fine. And the aspect ratio is still being maintained. So even if I gave this image wrapper here a height of, let's say, 90 rem, which is 900 pixels, a very weird value, you will see that the image is still showing up in a very nice way. Okay, of course, some parts are being cut out, but the aspect ratio is still being maintained. Even if I gave it a height of, let's say, 100 pixels, or even 150, 1500 pixels, you can see it's not losing the aspect ratio. Some parts are being trimmed out, yes, but it's far much better than having it, look ugly by losing the aspect ratio. So for me, I don't really want that that height. If I can remember well, the height was around 33 rem or 330 pixels. I can't really remember well, but it was something in those lines. So we will keep doing that trick time and again until you guys understand what is happening. So let us now do some very basic cleanup for this about section. And the first thing that we want to do is to put a gap between the image side and the text itself. We are here. So the wrapper here, the parent is this about section. So we will do here a gap of around 50 pixels or 5 rem. Okay, if it doesn't work, we'll come back to change it. But yeah, I believe that is far much better. A gap of around, okay, 5 rem is too huge, maybe 3 rem for 30 pixels. Yeah, I think this should be quite better. Wait, maybe we should go for something like 2 rem. Okay, let us try 2 rem and see how 2 rem works. Yeah, I think even 2 rem is okay. And then we want to align the item to the center. Okay, so I will set here because as you can see in the final version, this text, this paragraph over here, all of this is to the center of the image. So you will get here the align items property. So align items center, and then after that, yes, that is far much better. And then after that, we don't want the content to be all the way to the border. Okay, we don't want the content to be all the way to the border. So I'm going to give this element here a padding. So some padding to the top and to the bottom, as you can see, and even to the left and to the right. So the section itself, a padding of around 50 pixels to the top and to the bottom. Okay, padding 50 pixels to the top and to the bottom, that is around 5 rem. By around 20 pixels to the left and to the right, that's around 2 rem. So if I save that and we try to look at it, yes, you can see it's basically something like that. Yeah, it's something like that. Okay, and at this point, we don't really need this margin here. It was just there to make us put the element at the center. That way we are able to see what you're actually styling. And then if you look at the final version, this image has some nice border radius here. So let us put that border radius to our image here. So the image itself, image, a border radius of around 5 pixels. So save that, and if we look at it, there we go. So that is the about section, done and dusted. So of course we need to make it responsive. So right click and then select inspect. Okay, and yeah, this one here, okay, it's still okay. So at 900 pixels, it's still very much okay. So we start reducing this size. Okay, and I think below 800 pixels, it's where it's now not looking good anymore. So below 800 pixels, is somebody asking a question? Is somebody asking a question? I don't want to leave anyone behind. Okay, so what I was saying is that I think at around 800 pixels, I'm not sure what you're doing in the final version. That doesn't really matter here. What matters is what you're building. So at around below 800 pixels, instead of having them side by side, let us have them now to be in column direction. Okay, so 800 pixels, where is the about section? Here we go. Yeah, here at the very top, about section. So at 800 pixels, so at media screen and max width is 800 pixels. 800 pixels. We want to target this about section and make it to go in the column direction. So flex direction, we set it to column like that. And of course, we know currently these elements, okay, right now, as you can see, they are in the column direction. And as you can see, the elements are 50% in width. That is why they look so much to the center like this. We want to make them 100% in width. And this is where we're supposed to do so. So the same media query at media screen and max width. Okay, sorry, instead of parenthesis, max width 800 pixels, and then the same selector here. So copy that and paste it here. We want them to be 100% in width to cover the entire parent element. And as you can see, that one now is far much better than what we had. Okay. So now if you continue reducing it, I'm 100% sure this will work even for the smallest devices that we have. Okay, so the smallest device is Galaxy Z Fold 5, and this is what our page will look like on Galaxy Z Fold 5. Okay, we are done with the about section. Do we have any questions? So allow me to first of all version control this, and before we do it, we need to prettier flag right the entire directory. So just a few seconds, guys. Yeah, so there we are done. And then git add all the changes, git commit flag m. This commit is going to build the about section. Okay, and then we push the changes, git push. So before we forget, if we look at our final version, so just one more thing here. If you look at our final version, when we scroll, the background here remains intact. It's not scrolling with the page. But for this one over here, when we scroll, the background is going away with the page. Okay? So let us do that. Of course, we know how to fix that. Okay, not really to fix. It's not like a bug, but it's a feature. Where is the hero? Yeah, here we go. So we said to achieve that functionality, we set the background attachment property here to fixed. Very simple and very straightforward. So background attachment property to fixed. And now when we scroll, as you can see, it's now staying in the same place, similar to what you're having here in the final version. When we scroll, it's staying in place. And even this one here, when we are scrolling, it's staying in place. So that new change, let us also track it. Okay, GitHub is hanging because of the internet, I believe. But once it does, of course, I'm going to do this off screen, and then we'll be able to continue from there. Any questions? Do we have any questions? Okay. 10 minutes break. Let's 11:20. Sawa sawa. 11:20. Yes. Yeah, URL. Yeah. Uh-huh. Videos. Ama. Yeah. Oh, najua wanasema carousel. Inaitwa. But zina play. Yeah, exactly. So unaona hiyo lazima unajua JavaScript. But acha nikuonyeshe venye inaitwangwa carousel. Ukisearch to how to implement an image carousel in CSS. JS. Okay, lazima ukuwa unajua JS. Of course, you can also do it in CSS only, but it's a bit more complicated. So you need JavaScript somewhere. So how to implement a carousel image slider? You can call it an image slider. You can call it as a carousel. So JavaScript in audio functionality. As multimedia peke yake, functionality everything. Acha nikuonyeshe example hapa. So ona kama huyu jamaa channel forward ni venye net inasumbua, but try to forward to one. But I really wish we could see it. Unaona sana, si kama ndio ulikuwa unasema. Just a second. Utaona akiclick. Yeah, si kama ndio unasema. Yeah, exactly. So hiyo inaitwa image carousel. It's quite complex. So like you post like more links kwa mahali umeweka ile link. Hapana, you can't do that. Yeah, you can't do that. But in terms of image carousel, you will need JavaScript to implement it. Yeah, but we even have third-party libraries. Okay, we will learn that tukifika kwa JavaScript, but we have JavaScript third-party libraries to do that. For example, kuna inaitwa Swiper.js. Okay, I know for now you guys don't know what you mean by a third-party library, but for example, this Swiper.js, it's a third-party library that you can use to implement an image carousel. Okay, let us wait for it to load. It's like this site, kuna site tunaenda, you describe the button. Kama hii. Like this one, then you take the link up. Okay, it's what tuseme hiyo ni different because it's more than just that. So let me show you. Okay, unaona for example, ikifikanga ni kujenga nyumba, you don't do everything on your own. Utaenda ununue mabati badala kujitengenezea mabati yako, ununue mawe kwa mtu wa lori badala kujitafikia mawe yako hivyo. So hadi kwa software engineering, we don't do everything from scratch. Kuna watu wenye wameshatengeneza hizo vitu zenye tunataka. So it's just about us getting those tools and using them in our project. So inaitwa Swiper. I really wish kuna malonhonga na examples. Yeah, so sasa kama hapa ni code na kuonyesha vile utatumia, but when we get there I'm going to show you guys, so don't worry about it. So just copy these examples. So I want examples. Docs. Like venye net inasumbua, but I really wish. Yeah, but you can call it, you can use any of this image. I mean any of these names. Image slider, carousel. So yeah, any of these two names, image slider or carousel. Yeah, exactly. Oh, drama. Ndio hapa. Ndio hapa background image, to make an image. So tulisema even ndo tulisoma kwa CSS. Tulisema whenever you want to use a background image, you use the background property and then you use the URL function. So URL will provide the path to where the image is. So yeah? As in unaleta if unafanyia kwa CSS. Yes, hapa ni CSS, yes. Ndio unaleta kiwa any okay for back. Yeah, for background images, yes. Yeah. And you provide the path. Yeah, the path itself. Tukifika huko tutawaambia. Yeah. Tuendelee. So, okay, let us mute our devices. Someone is speaking, please keep quiet. I'm very happy that you guys are now asking the right questions. It means that we are moving together. So I've had some questions to break time. It means that we are now on the same page. If you guys are thinking in those lines, it means we are moving in the correct direction. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. Okay, so I want us now to start working on this about section. Sorry, not about section. I want us to work on the services section. And as you can see, the services section is up this title. We have this title, but then we will come back to this title later on. And then now the services themselves. So what I want us to work on now is these services. Okay. As you can see, this is, by the way, this is what we refer to as a card. You'll hear people talking about cards in CSS. So it's just something that looks like this. So this is a service card, as you can see, and the card is made up of an image. Okay, so the card is made up of an image, and then we have a title, and then we have some text, and then we have another card very similar to the first one, and then another card, and so on and so forth. So those are what we refer to as cards, and these ones are very simple to build. So let us get started. So I'm going to create the markup. We will start here with the HTML. So for now, let me create a branch. Okay. Again, there is no reason to do this, but I really want us to put everything we've learned together. So we saw another command where you can create a branch and switch to it in basically one line. Okay. So that command was the git switch command. So git switch flag C and then the name of the branch. In this case, we can just call it services. Okay, so git switch flag C and then the name of the branch services. And what this command over here will do, it will create a branch and switch to it immediately. So if I press enter, you can now see we are being switched here to this branch here called services. And now let us get started. I want us to start by creating the markup. Okay, so we want here, okay, we want here the services section, and then end of services section. And by the way, guys, these terms that I'm using, I'm not making them up. For example, I've told you a term like header. I've told you a term like the hero section. I've told you a term like above the fold. Now I'm not talking about something known as a card. Okay, so these terms I'm not making them up. They are terms that are being used all the time in web design. So end of services section. So for this, I'm going to have the section tag. So section with a class of services. Okay, so we can even call it services section. Okay, and then inside of our services section, what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to have a div, and maybe call it services container or something, that is going to hold all of these services cards. Okay, that way in the future, when we give that particular div a display property set to flex and flex wrap set to wrap, then all of these cards to adhere to that. So for that, let us have the div that you're talking about. So I'm going to have a div which I will call services container. So in the future, in a few, maybe the next 20 or the next 30 minutes, we're going to see why we have this div with the class of services container. So I now want to have a div which will have the class of service card like that. So a div with the class of service card. Let us start title. I'm going to use heading 3 for the title. So h3, and the class here is service card title like that. Or you can even call it service title. No need to repeat ourselves. So service title, and then I'll just copy here this veterinary vet service. Okay, by the way, it's highlighting, but I know where the issue is. Okay, let us start with this veterinary service here. So copy that, veterinary service, and then a paragraph here, which I'll give it a class of service description. So service description, I want to copy all of this. So I customized the CSS. That way, when I highlight something, it becomes white in color with this background. So it's now biting me back here, because when I highlight this one, for example, I don't really know whether I have highlighted it, but I'm just trusting that maybe that is what has actually happened. So copy that, and then in the service description, I can have that service. And now for the image, okay, if I go here to the images, let us look for the service. You can see, for example, the first service here, service horse feeding. We have a service for horse grooming like that. We have a service for horse sanctuary. And as you can see, they have transparent backgrounds. So essentially, usually 99% of the times, when you see an image containing these things over here, you can see these things that look like tiny boxes, as if it's checkers or chess or something. Okay, that's usually a background image, which means even if you put this image on a black background, all of this part over here where you're seeing these checkers will not be seen. Only this other part here will be. And if you put it on a white background, it's the same thing. So for example, you can compare this image over here with how it is appearing in the final version. Okay, so that is the reason why we are having that. So I'm going to have here a div. So you can see our service card is starting from here all the way to here. I can even have a comment. Okay, service card 1, and then that particular service card is ending here. I usually like to use comments so that I don't end up being lost. So end of service card 1. So something like that. So you can see the service card is starting from here and ending at here. So let us now have the image. So I told you guys I want to have a div which I'll call service card image wrapper or something in those lines, because I want to put an image inside of it, so that I end up having this nice effect where the image seems to be inside of something that is circular in shape. Okay, so yeah, we now have that in our service, and now I want here an image. So the first service here is veterinary service. So I'll just call /images, /src, and then images. And then for the services, I want service. Wait, where is that? Yeah, service vet.png, like that. And then you can just say here, veterinary services, and then maybe give it a class. So class is equal to service image, like that, service image. So if I save this and I go back here to our final version, where is that? Yeah, you can see it is refreshing. Of course, my browser is hanging. That is why you guys are seeing that. And we have our thing here very much perfectly. Now, let us start with the section itself. I will jump here to the style.css, and we want here the services styling. Services styling, and then it ends here. End of services styling, like that. So here, as you can see, I want us to start with this particular service section, because when you look at it, you can see it has this background. Okay, not here, sorry. You can see it has this background. It's very hard to see, but if you try to look at the about section in the background, and if you try to look at the services section in the background, you will notice we have a difference in terms of the background color. Okay, and even if you look at the service itself, if you look at the service card itself, the background color of the service card itself and the background color of the section, they are completely different. So that is the reason why for that I am going to have this service section. Let me copy the class. I'm going to have this service section. So copy that class, and then here I want to give it a background color. So a background color of, I think it's called color gray light, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so yeah, color gray light. I really hope it is the one. Okay, if we go here, yeah, exactly, it is the one. It's very hard to see, but it's actually the one. It's extremely hard to see it from your end, guys. Maybe if I just try to zoom this in very much, you'll be able to see what I'm talking about, but you will notice some difference in terms of that. So yeah, that is it about it. And now let us now start focusing on this service card. Okay, and it's supposed to be very simple to implement. Let us start by copying the class itself, service card. And of course, you know where I want to start. I want to see what I'm styling, so I will give it some sort of a border. Okay, sorry for that. I will give it some sort of a border here, a border of, let's say, 2 pixels solid red. That is just for debugging purposes. I want to be able to see what I'm actually working on. And as you can see, it's very huge, occupying all the space over here. And basically what I want us to do, I want us to make it have a small width. Okay, you can see the width over here, and if you compare the width, of course this doesn't make any sense. Now I want to give it a width of around 30 pixels, but 300 pixels. So 300 pixels width is 30 rem in our case. So I will give it that particular width, a width of 30 rem, which is 300 pixels. So if I save that and we try to look at it, you can see that is what we end up having. And then allow me to give it a margin. That way it is placed here at the center where we can see what you're working on. It's so annoying to try looking at it from the very end here. So let us give it a margin that we will remove in a short while. So a margin of, I don't know, maybe 200 pixels. Okay, because I just want to throw it here to the center where we can basically see what you're working on. And that is exactly what we now have here. Great. So let us now start with the image. Okay, I want us to start with the image. So with the image, it's going to be very simple. We start with the image container. So where is that? Service card image wrapper. This image wrapper is what we want to start with. As you can see, okay, let me first of all start by having this image wrapper. Okay, so as you can see, if we try to look at our final version here, okay, the class name is wrong. So it's supposed to be service like that, not service like that. So if we try to look at our final version here, okay, we have an error in our CSS. Let us remove this. This is not valid CSS. But if you try to look at our final version over here, okay, if you try to look at our final version, you will see that the image wrapper is circular in shape. So in CSS, there are 2 ways you can make something to be circular. Number 1, you can use the clip path property, of which I'm going to show you, and that is some very boring mathematics, but I'm going to show you that clip path property in a short while. Or you can also use the border radius property set to 50%. So if you want to make something to be circular in CSS, this is the simplest way to do it. You give it the same width and the same height. Meaning, you start by making it a square, and then you give it a border radius property set to 50%. And when you do that, effectively, that particular thing is going to be circular in shape. So because I want to give it the same width and the same height, then I think it's a good idea. I give it a variable. Okay, so service image wrapper size. So we can even start here with, I think it was 10 rem, if I'm not wrong. If I can remember well, it was 10 rem. So I'm going to give it that width, a width of that service image wrapper size. Same case to the height, a height of, okay, not auto, a height of a variable, and then service image wrapper size. So you can see a width of 10 rem and a height of 10 rem. And maybe just to see what is happening, I want to have here a border of 3 pixels. solid green. This is just to see what is happening. So you guys you should remember how we are debugging our items here. So if we come back here, you can see that is what we end up having. As you can see, it is now square in shape. And now what happens is that when I give it a width, when I give it a width of 50%, when I give it a width of 50% like that, you will now see that, okay, not width, sorry, not width, but a border radius. When I give it a border radius, when I give it a border radius of 50%, as you can see, it is not going to be circular. It's now perfect circle. So if you want to make something to be circular in CSS, it's very simple. You give it a similar width and a similar height, meaning you make it a square first of all, and then after that you give it a border radius of 50%. And that particular thing becomes a circle. Now, in like 5 minutes, I'm going to show you another way to make something to be a circle. Okay. So first of all, let us first finish by styling this image over here. So the image is extremely huge, that to an extent that it is coming out of the circle that we intended to put it inside. Okay. So let us now target the image. I'm going to copy this service image class. So service image. So service image, and for this it's very simple. I'll just give this image. Okay, again I call this service instead of service. So service image. So service image, I want to give it a width, maybe a width of around 60 pixels. So that is around 6 rem, 60 pixels. Yeah, I believe that is what we're supposed to be having. Yeah, I think 60 pixels is exactly what we want, if we even compare it to our final version. And that is very perfect. Now, what we want to do, let me remove this border radius 50%, and then I'll come back to it, because of course it needs to be there. What we want to do, we want to place this image to the dead center of this circle. Sorry, not of this circle, but of this wrapper that has a green border. So what do we start by doing? We start by giving it a display property set to flex, and now we will have the cross axis and the main axis. So if we assume this is our image wrapper over here, so we have the cross axis and the main axis. So if this is our image wrapper, of course we know it's a square. If this is now our image here, okay, sorry for that. If this is our image, let's say this is our image here, okay. I don't want this anymore. Okay, so if this is now our image, I'm trying to find, yeah. So if this is now our image, so currently it is somewhere here. Okay, so if we give our image wrapper a display property set to flex, now it's going to have the cross axis and the main axis. And then if we set justify content property to center, the image will be centered along the main axis, so it will be thrown there to the center. And then if we set align items to property to center, it will be centered along the cross axis, of which it will now be somewhere there. So it's easier done than said. So display property, we set it to flex like that. And then if we set the justify content property to center, justify content center, it is going to be centered along the main axis. And then if we set align items to center, it will be centered along the cross axis. So align items center like that, and as you can see, it's now centered along the cross axis. Very perfect. And now if we bring back our border radius property set to 50%, you will see it is going to work perfectly fine like that. So right now I don't really need this border set to whatever that green color is. What I need instead here is to give it a background color. So a background color of, you know, color gray lighter. I believe it's supposed to be this one, color gray lighter. Okay, which color do we have? Yeah, let us use this gray lighter here. And yeah, of course it's very hard to see, but the lighter gray is being used there. Or do we have any other variation of gray? Let us just try to see. If we have another variation of gray, it will be far much better to use that one. What if we use the actual gray? Okay, the actual gray is a bad idea, extremely bad idea. So maybe we should go with color gray lighter. Let us just go with gray lighter. It's far much better, like that. So of course it's very hard to differentiate it from the background, because even the background has some grayish color. But of course, our card is supposed to have a white background. So a background color property set to white. So variable, and then where our white color is, like that. So now this is easier to see compared to the surroundings. Okay, so we will come back to center it. So for now, let us focus on this text over here and this far away, whatever that text is. So this one here, of course, I know it's supposed to be to the center, and then of course some margin to the top and to the bottom, but we will come back to that. So it's supposed to be to the center and capitalized. Okay, it's supposed to be to the center like this and capitalized, and then later on we'll give it some margin to the top and to the bottom, because there is a new trick I want to show you guys. So service title, I will copy that class like that. So after the service image, we want the service title, text align property, we set it to center. Okay, and text transform, we want to set it to capitalize, and then of course even the font size, we should set it to something like 2 rem. So if I save that and I look at it, that is exactly what we have. And even this one over here, we want to capitalize the text, number one. Sorry, not capitalizing. We want to center the text. We want to reduce the font size to 1.4 em, and then we want to set some line height. So as you can see here, this one is centered, capitalized, and the line height is also kind of changed. Okay, so here we go. Service description. So service description, text align. We start with center. Of course, you guys, you know what is going to happen there. We change the font size to around 1.4 em, and then we set the line height here to be around 2, and even the color, we change the color to be our gray color. So if I save that and we try to look at it, you can see that is exactly what we have. Okay, and then this text over here, veterinary service, we want to give it some margin to the top and to the bottom. So where is that service title? A margin to the top and to the bottom of around 20 pixels, or even 10 pixels. Let us try 10 pixels. And to the left and to the right, we don't want any margin, 0. So save that. And if we go back here, yep, that is exactly what we have. Or maybe it's beyond 1 rem, but we'll get back to that. Now, I want us to center this element here, this image wrapper containing the image. I want us to place it somewhere in the center here. Okay, so that is now where our new trick comes in today. There is a value called auto in CSS. So in this case, for example, our image wrapper, where is that? Our image wrapper, I can give it a margin. Okay, so I don't want it to have any margin to the top and to the bottom. So I don't want it to have any margin to the top and to the bottom. So I will give it a value of 0. But to the left and to the right, I'm going to say auto. So when you say auto, basically what CSS will do is that, okay, I've not yet saved, but what CSS will do is going to take this space here remaining, and then it will divide it equally to the right and to the left. It will divide this space equally to the right and to the left, and effectively our image will be centered. Not our image, but this element, whatever element it is you're working with, is going to be centered. So a margin of 0 auto, and if I save that and go back to the page here, you see that is exactly what happens. And then of course, finally, to finish up, you can see we have some very nice padding here. So a padding of around 1 rem, if I'm not wrong. I think 1 rem should work. So in the service card itself, we give it a padding of 1 rem. So save that, and yeah, you can see that is basically what we end up having. So guys, are you in the mood for some mathematics? I show you something else. Hello, I'm asking a question. Are you in the mood for some small mathematics? Okay, so there is a property in CSS called clip path. So in CSS, you can create whatever shape you want. You can create whatever shape you want in this world when it comes to CSS. And it is because of a property called clip path. So let us just use this example, or I'm just using this example, but we will come back to, okay, we will remove that later on, because currently our card is done. It's just a matter of removing this red border. But we have a property in CSS called clip path. Okay, we have a property in CSS called clip path. And it takes in a lot of values, but the most important one is this value here called polygon. Now, with this clip path property set to polygon and some mood for mathematics, guys, you can create whatever shape you want. Okay, so this clip path, you can use it to cut along this particular shape, you know, in whatever spaces you want. So usually what you're supposed to do is to provide the X and the Y coordinate of the place you want to cut. And it usually starts from the top right corner. I'm sorry, not top right, but from the top left corner. So the coordinate here at the top left corner is going to be 0 by 0. Of course, that depends on, you know, the element you're working on. It doesn't have to be a card. It could even be an entire section like this one over here. So we start here from the very top left corner over here. Okay, we start from here, and the coordinate for this, the X and the Y, is 0 by 0. Okay, so I'm not going to save yet, but we'll start from there, 0 by 0. You can see I have provided the X direction and the X coordinate and the Y coordinate, 0 by 0. So, okay, I want us to create a shape like this one. I want us to create a shape like, where is that tool for writing? This one. I want to create a shape that looks like this. Something like this. Okay, not like that really. But I want us to create a shape that looks like this. Just assume it's straight, guys. But I want us to create something that looks like an inverted trapezium. So we have started here at 0 by 0. So I want us now to move 100% in the X direction, okay, but 0 in the Y direction. So that is exactly what I'm going to do. So comma, and then 100% in the X direction, but 0 in the Y direction. The next place I want us to cut, I want us to move. So this one here is 100 by 0. Okay. And then the next thing I want us to do, we move to the bottom. So this now is going to be the X movement to the bottom. So it's going to be around, let's say 90%. Okay. Around 90% by 0, because if we go 100%, we'll go all the way to the bottom here, and then 0 in the Y direction. So 90% by 0. Okay, 90% by 0 in the Y direction. And then after that, I want us to move from this 90%. I want us to move from here all the way to here. So I think at this point it's 100% in the X direction by 100% in the Y direction. So I'm going to set here 100% by 100%. So if I save this and we go back here to our page, okay, it's cutting it in a weird way. I think when I'm a little mess up. So this one here was supposed to be 0 in the X direction, but 90% in the Y direction. I'm sorry for that, guys. But we might come back to that. Sorry for that. Okay. Okay, what is happening now? Okay, either way, you guys, you can see we are actually cutting something. Oh yeah, I forgot. We are supposed to finish it by going back to the origin, 0 by 0. So just a second, 0 by 0. And I think if we save that, it's going to work. Okay, it's not yet working. 100 by 0. Wait. 0 by 100. Wait. Are you guys sure? Oh yeah. Okay, it's something like that. But you can see we're able to create a shape like this. Okay, I usually don't do this manually. Okay, that is why I'm having trouble with this math. You can literally search for, okay, you can search, sorry, you can search for clip path generator. Just search any website. It doesn't have to be any to be the one that I'm using. You can see we have hundreds of such websites. Okay, go for anyone that works for you. I'm going to go with this one here called bennettphilly.com. Okay, and here you can basically create clip paths. So for example, if you want to create a triangle, you can see the clip path is 50% in the X direction by 0 in the Y direction, as you can see. then 0% in the X by 100% in the Y, as you can see, and then 100% by 100%. So if I copy this value over here and I paste it here, okay, let us just have this to be background color red. Okay, instead of border, let's just have it to be background color property here, set to red. That way we see what exactly it is we are working on. So clip path, polygon, and then that particular value. And if we go back here to our page, you can now see we have a triangle. Okay, if you want it to be like this arrow here, there's usually an arrow that you use that makes it easier. Even this one here, this custom polygon. Okay, sorry, not that one. But let's say you want it to look like a cross. So you can see this is the clip path property. So you can create any shape you want using clip path polygon. Just provide the points along which you want to cut that particular thing. So you can see here I'm using clip path polygon, and then this is going to give me some sort of a cross here. So if I save this and we go back here to the page, okay, you can now see that one looks like a cross. So what else can we do here? Maybe even this one that looks like a cross icon. And then we copy this CSS here, clip path property set to polygon, and then you can use it here as well. So save that. Okay. And if you go back here to the page, you can now see it will look like a letter X. So you just go online and search for clip path generator. I have failed terribly in explaining that. But now, if we want a circle, for example, we can go for this one here. And you can see, for this one now, we are not using a polygon. We are using clip path property, and then circle 50% at, I don't know what this means. Let us just use it. So copy it, and then where was that? Let me just remove this too. We don't need this anymore. I was just using it for explaining to you guys. So where is that service card image wrapper? So you can see here, we were setting the border radius to 50%. Let me remove also this background color red. Okay, so I've noted the clip path property to be what we have copied. So you can see currently it is in this square shape. But if I set clip path, circle 50% at 50%, 50%, you can now see it has become a perfect circle. What if we reduce the width and the height? Let us see. If we remove the width and the height, will it really work? Nah, it's not working. So you have to give it a width and a height, a similar width and a similar height, and then you use this value over here. Clip path, circle 50% at 50% by 50%. So you can go with any one that you want. For me, I find border radius property set to 50% easier to use, but it doesn't have to be that way for you. If this one is, if for you clip path 50% at 50 by 50 is okay, you can go with it. So I'm sorry I could not explain that clip path property well, but I hope you see where you can get help in case you want to work with clip path. Okay, and I can even start here with this trapezoidal, okay, and have it go all the way to that like that. And by the way, this clip path property, people usually use it to have some very nice effect on their pages. So for example, in our case, I can copy this particular value, and instead of having a very plain hero section here, I can use it in the hero section. Okay, I'm just trying to show you an example. So where is the hero section itself? Here we go. I can give it this clip path property, polygon, and then maybe here we can just do 90% or even 80% instead of 77%. And if we look at it, you can now see it's not as boring as it was before. It's something that looks, quite, let me say, a bit more professional. Maybe I should go here with maybe 95% or something. And if we save it, you can now see we have this cut out like that. Maybe 90% because I want it to be more visible. Save it, and now you see we end up having this nice effect over here. Okay, so that is the clip path property. And let me remove this. I was just doing this for showing you guys what is possible with that clip path property. So let me just use this 50%. I find easier and even easy to explain to anyone. So now we don't need this red border anymore because we are done with it. So save that, and let us finish up the the services section. So I want to duplicate this card multiple times and have one card test. So if we have the first service here, which is host grooming, and luckily I have these comments which will guide me. So the second service here, so service card 2, sorry for that, service card 2, and here we want a host grooming service host grooming, and then you can say here host grooming, and then here also we have the same thing, host grooming. Next service card here, so this was service card number 2. We go to the third one, service card number 3. Okay, the third service card is host training and then host feeding. I don't know what's wrong with my mouse. Host training, host training, host training, and then the fourth service card here, so service card number 4, this is host feeding, host feeding. That, I'm sorry guys, you have to look at me doing all of this. I really wish I had this. Feeding, yeah, host feeding, and even here host feeding, and this is service card number 4. And then the 5th one and the 6th one are sanctuary for horses and digital tracking, service card number 5, and this is sanctuary for horses sanctuary for horses. Sanctuary, yeah, there we go. And now final one, I'm so sorry for that guys. So the 6th one is host tracking. Is it host tracking? Digital tracking. Digital tracking. Digital tracking and / tracking. Yeah, exactly. And that is the 6th card. So save that. And if we look at our page here, just a second, it's misbehaving. Yeah, there we go. We have all of the 6 cards. Okay, so let us remove this 100 pixels, you know, the 100 pixels, whatever that you were using. Where is that? For the host card, I mean for the service card. So this margin of 200 pixels, it was just there for testing purposes, not for testing purposes, but to make our work easier. So now here are our cards. So we want to put them side by side, and for that we have our best friend, the flex box. So who's the parent container? The parent container is this services container. So you guys now see why I was having all of them inside of one div. So the parent container is this services container. Just to follow the source order, I'm going to style it from here. The services container. Okay, give me a second, guys. So the parent container was the services container, and for this services container, we will give it a display property set to. So display property set to flex, like that. So if we save that, we can see they are side by side. But right now, they're being forced to be side by side. They're being forced to fit all of them in one line. So if you want, if you want this to wrap on a new line in case there is not enough space, we will use our favorite property, flex wrap. So flex wrap and then wrap. So when there is no enough space, they're now going to wrap on the next line. Okay, and then we want to put some gap in between here. Okay, we want to put some gap in between here because you can currently see they are all together. Okay, so you want to put some gap. A gap of around 5 rem is going to work. A gap of around 5 rem. So save that. And if we look at it, there we go. And then I want to place all of these cards to the center of the main axis. So for that, I used justify content property, justify content, and I set that to enter. So if I save this and I look at it, you can now see all of them are to the center like that. So now if I also inspect this, there it is going to be automatically responsive because we are using the flex wrap property. So if I start going down, you will see when there is no enough space, okay, when there is no enough space, they are just wrapping automatically. And you can see, guys, we did that without writing any media query. We did that without writing any media query. So when you have such a layout, okay, when you have a layout that is automatically adjusting to, you know, that is automatically adjusting without writing any media query, we refer to that layout as a fluid layout. Fluid like a liquid, F-L-U-I-D. Fluid layout. It is a layout that it is automatically adjusting without us having to write any single media query. Okay, and that is thanks to this flexbox property called flex wrap. And then now for the section itself, as you can see, the content is all the way to the border. For the section itself, I'm going to give it a padding. So a padding of around 100 pixels to the top and to the bottom. So a padding of 10 rem. So 10 rem is equivalent to 100 pixels by maybe 2 rem to the left and to the right, like that. And yeah, I think that is far much better. So yeah, that is now done. And before we get out of this branch, I want us to give this card some nice radiuses. Okay, so the card itself, we want to give it a border radius. Border radius. Oh, come on, can you load some border radius of 5 pixels? And if we save that, load it, you see we have those nice 5 pixels border radiuses. Now, again, before we leave this branch, let us now work on this title over here. Okay, let us work on this title, of which is very simple to work on. And that title is going to be reusable. It's not specific to the services section because, as you can see, we are also using it in the team section and even in the blog section. So I will not style it as if it's a service title. I'll just style it like I'll just make it a title and to put it inside of this container because it will be put as part of these cards side by side. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about. So the title is made up of a very small title and the main title. So div with the class of title, and then a paragraph with the class of title sub. We can even call it subtitle or something that we want. So some of the things we offer, and then a heading 2 with the class of title main, our services. Okay, so the thing is that if I put this title together with the services all, if I save, you will see that you're going to have black, but as you can see, we are getting this here. So if we were to put this inside of the container, if we were to put the title inside of the container like that, we'll end up part of that flex, of which we don't want this. Okay. Of course, it's a valid layout, but we don't want, for us, we don't want anything in those lines. So let us just make sure we put the title outside of the container like that, yes? Oh, it may hang. Can you see my screen now? Okay, let me show it again. Can you see my screen? Guys, can you see my screen? Okay. So let us now go back to styling the title as we were saying. Okay, allow me to save this. And okay, I don't know why Okay, I think it's because my screen is hanging. That is why it's taking too much to load all of that. So as you can see, we have this smaller title, and it's smaller in size. This is again 1.4M, and then it's uppercase, and as you can see, it is centered compared to what we have here. Okay, so I'm going to have this title. Is somebody saying something? Oh, okay. Let me share this again then. Let me just try to do that again. Can you guys see my screen? Okay. If that problem persists, you tell me. That way we see how we can fix it. So what I was saying is that if we look at the subtitle here, as you can see, it has this primary color, okay, and it is all the way to the center, and the size is a bit reduced. So I'm jumping here to my Visual Studio Code, and I want this title sub like that. So allow me to style it all the way to the top here because it's not specific to any section. So I'll maybe style it here after the selector. So that title sub, okay, I will give it a font size. So a font size around 1.4M. I will also give it a text align property here set to center. So text align center, and then text transform property here set to uppercase like that. So if I save this, I will try to look at what we have here in our final version. You can see that is exactly what we have. And then I need to make this font to be a bit bolder than what we have currently. So font weight like that. We set it to be something like, I don't know, 700. And I believe 700 is going to work. And then before you forget, let us also give it the primary color. So color, and then our variable, and then this color primary, dark probably. Let us go with that color primary. And yeah, there we go. So next is our main title here. If you look at our final version, as you can see, our main title is capitalized. It's all the way to the center, and it's bigger than what we currently have. So back to HTML here, I'm going to copy the class title main. So copy that, and then so title main like that. We want to start by making it to be center aligned. So text align center like that, and then text transform is going to be equal to capitalize, and then the font size, not font weight, font size is going to be equal to 50 pixels, which is 5 rem. Okay, so if we save that and we look at our code here, you can see that is exactly what is happening. And then, of course, I know this is going to not be responsive in all the screen sizes, so I don't even need to try and check for that. I can just guess here, maybe at 600 pixels. So at media screen and max width is going to be equal to 600 pixels. 600 pixels. I want to target this title main, and then change the font size. So a font size of around, I think 3 rem is going to be fair, or even, yeah, 3 rem is going to be fair, or even 3.5 rem. So 35 pixels is going to be very, very much fair. And now the final thing is to create some distance, or rather some space between the title and our container here. But before we do that, allow me to just put some comments here. Title stylings, and then the end of title stylings, end of title stylings. So going back all the way to the bottom, I want to put some margin to the top of the, sorry, not the about, but the services. So the services container, a margin to the top of around 50 pixels. 5 rem is going to work. Yep. Yeah, exactly. 50 pixels. And with that, we are done with that section. Do we have any questions? So of course, I need to first of all fix the code with prettier. So prettier, flag right, the entire directory. So you should always format your code with Prettier, guys, always. So HTML, CSS, and anything to do with JavaScript, Prettier usually does a very good job. And then I want to add all the changes. So git add all the changes. So just a second. Git commit flag M. This commit is going to build the services section. And with that, we'll be done with that. So I want to go back to the production branch. Git switch production like that. And of course, if we go here to our final version, the changes have gone. Not that they've gone anywhere, but they're inside. They are inside of the services branch. So let me merge that branch. Git merge services. And if I press enter, the merge is very much successful. And then I can delete that branch now. So git branch flag D services, because I have already merged all the changes. Okay, so here we go. And our services section is done and dusted. So now the next one, this one is going to be a very simple one. Okay, we're going to be done with it before you guys realize it. It's going to be that reasons section. So why we should choose this particular company. Okay, so the reasons section. So for that, let us go back here. And I don't even need to create a branch, because again, guys, the only reason I was creating branches was because I wanted us to basically practice everything that we have learned. So scroll here all the way to the bottom, and then now we are on the reasons section. Reasons section, and then sorry for that, reasons section, end of the reasons section. So end of this reasons section. So we are going to have here a section, and the class is going to be reasons section. Okay, so this reason section is going to be made up of some various reason cards, and as you can see, these ones here are very simple. They only have a title and a description. So each reason is going to be inside of its own div. So a div with a class of reason. Okay, so div class is equals to reason, and then I'm going to have here a heading 3 with the class of reason title. So the first reason why we should choose this company is expert technicians when it comes to dealing with horses. So copy that, and then we paste it here, and then we want the reason description, basically this paragraph over here. So copy this, and then a small paragraph with the class of reason description, like that, and paste it there. So we will come back to that. So first things first, this reason section, as you can see, it has this background over here, of which by now I believe we know how to do it. So I'm going to copy this reason section class, and then we jump here to the style.css and reasons section, styling, and then end of that section. So end of reasons section styling. It's really flying. I'm seeing somebody here yawning. So reason section, and so the reason section, just to start out, okay, you've seen what I've been doing. I just want to give it a height, okay, and then of course we'll come back to change it later on. I'll just start by giving it a height of 100 view heights, okay, just for testing purposes, and then we'll come back to change that. And just to see whether everything is going on as I've planned, I'll give it a border of maybe 5 pixels solid red, but we're coming back to this. So save that, and looking at it, you can see this is our reason section. You can see it's fitting the height perfectly, and that is because of that 100 view height. Okay, so the image that you want here, I think it's this reasons PG IMG, this image over here. So this is the image you want to work with. Okay, so we start by using the background property. So background. So remember we said you can use background or you can use background image whenever you want to work with an image. So background, and then so Nzioka was asking this question. So Nzioka URL, and then you provide the path to where that particular background image is. So in the CSS folder, in the current folder, I will go to the images folder, and then I want this reasons bg.img. And if we go here, you can see there we have it. And of course, the image is massive. That is why you can see it's being cut out here. Not really being cut out, but you know, the size is going beyond what we can fit in this particular element. So for that, you're supposed to use the background size property and set it to cover. So background size, and we set it to cover like that. So if I save this and we go back here, you can now see it is working perfectly fine with what we have here. And then after that, I want to put a gradient on top of the image. Okay, I want to put a gradient on top of the image. So we said you're supposed to use the linear gradient like that. So separate them with a comma like that. So we have a gradient on top of an image. And for a gradient to work, you must have at least two colors. So for me, I like working with black. For a gradient to work, you must have at least two colors like that. But if we put a solid color like that, you will see that it will end up blocking our image. So I need some way to achieve opacity. And for that, of course, I'm going to use the RGBA. So RGBA. And then for black, we said you remove the red, you remove the green, and then you remove the blue, and maybe some opacity of 0.5. Okay, 0.4. Let us go with 0.4 then. And then even for this one here, RGBA. Sorry for that. RGBA. And then we remove the red, we remove the green, we remove the blue, and they don't even have to be the same. We can even have this to be 0.9 or something, and it's 100% okay. So we end up having this effect where from the top, it's really kind of visible because of that 0.4 opacity, and to the bottom, it's quite dark because of the 0.3 opacity. But in our final version, I think it's darker than 0.4, Brian. So sorry, but we'll have to go with something above 0.4. Okay, let us try to go with 1.6 by 0.6. By the way, guys, in coding, 0.6 and 0.6 is one and the same thing. Okay, 0.6 and 0.6, it's one and the same thing when it comes to software development. So in mathematics, I know that is not the case, but here we can perfectly do that. Yeah, so you can see here is what we have, and this is very much great. Okay, so that is it about it. We can even now remove this red border. We will come back to it later on. So now we want to tackle the specific reason. So the reason card itself. So for the reason card itself, I want to start by giving it a width. And if I can remember well, it was around 350 pixels, which is 35 frame. So width of 35 frame or 350 pixels. So by the way, guys, even this is a card. Of course, you can't see, but this is a card here. We have a card that is holding the title and the description there. So I'm giving this card a width of 35 frame or 350 pixels and maybe a border here just to see what is happening of, let's say, 2 pixels solid and then red. So if I save this and we look at it, you can see that is exactly what we have. So let me now tackle the title, of which is supposed to be white. Oh, sorry. The title, the reason title, of which is supposed to be white, and let us look at the stylings instead of gazing. So it's supposed to be white, and then some space between the letters. I can literally see here we have some letter spacing and some margin to the bottom, but we'll come to that margin to the bottom later on. So the title itself, we give it a white color. So color variable, and then color white. So save that. Yep, there we go. And then we capitalize the text because you can see E is capital and T is capital, and some letter spacing of around 2 pixels or something. So text transform, capitalize, and then a letter spacing of around 2 pixels. So save that, and you can even, do we really need to increase the font size? Yeah, let us increase the font size to around 2 rem. Font size 2 rem. So save that, and if we look at it, I think that is okay. I think that is okay. So let us now go to the paragraph itself, of which the paragraph, as you can see, it has a very small font size of around 1.4 m, I'm sure, and a line height of 2, and then also the weight there is a bit different, the font weight. So the reason description, here we go. Copy it, and then the reason description, a font size of 1.4 m. By the way, even the color is different. So the color is that gray color. So color, variable, and then color gray. Okay, and then a line height of 2. So if we save it and we look at it, yeah, there we go. And even the font weight, as you can see, this one is extremely thin. So a font weight of around 200 or 300 should work. So font weight 200. Save that. Yep, I think that is what we want. Yeah, exactly what we want. Sorry. And then now I can remove this red border. We don't need it anymore. And now what is left to do is to just duplicate this reason here multiple times. Okay, and I don't even need a comment for it because it's very easy to see this one. So the second reason here, professional advice and great support. So professional advice. Professional. Yeah, exactly. Professional advice. By the way, guys, I have an extension called Code Spell Checker that helps you to check for spelling issues. So you can see here when this spelling was wrong, I was able to get this underline over here. Okay, so that extension is called Code Spell Checker. Code Spell Checker. You know, the spell checking in programming and the spell checking in grammar, they're two different things. So this Code Spell Checker extension, okay, let us wait for it to load, but that extension will help to check for spelling issues. Okay, because in grammar, this would have been wrong. Reason description, you can see it's not giving here. But if I was, for example, to remove, okay, we'll no need for that. But professional advice, let us flip, and then I'll be able to show it to you. Professional advice, and then great support. Great support. After that, what else do we have? Technical skills, highly recommended, and positive review. Technical skills. And then we have another one here, highly recommended. And then the last one here, positive reviews. Sorry, positive reviews, like that. So save this. Okay, the internet is so that that is not working, so let us just ignore that. But at your own time, you can go check for those. So I have saved here the file, and if we try to look at it, you can see here we have everything. So now what is left to do? Yeah, guys, exactly now. This is the reason why you should never give your elements a height. You can now see in this case, the content is overflowing because we gave this element a height. But if you give it a minimum height, it would work perfectly fine. So avoid using heights on your elements unless it's absolutely necessary. So you can see for this one here, for this circle that was holding the image, we confidently used the height property because we were very sure there is no way that particular image is going to grow beyond that particular circle, okay, or rather beyond the wrapper itself. So this is the exact reason why I usually tell you guys to avoid giving your elements a height. But of course, we're coming back to that. In fact, let us just remove the height. Where is that? So reason section, we remove the height. And now what we want to do here is this. We want to put all of these elements here side by side, to put all of these reasons side by side. So for that, we use the display property here. So the display property, display set to flex. So we convert it to a flex container like that. And now all of these elements, they're going to be side by side. But as you can see, they're being forced to fit the same line. We make this layer to be a fluid layout by using flex wrap property set to wrap. Okay, so whenever there is no enough space, these elements will automatically be going to the next line. And then right now they are too close to each other, so I want to put in there some gap. A gap of around 5 frame. So if we save this and we look at it, you can now see it's working perfectly fine. And then finally, we want some very huge padding to the top and to the bottom, and the left and right as well. So you can see we want a huge padding here, maybe 5 frame or even 10 frame to the top and to the bottom, and even the left and the right. So a padding of, I don't know, 5 frame by, let us just try to use 5 frame everywhere, top, right, bottom, and left, and see how that goes. Yep, it's quite something, but maybe some more padding to the top and to the bottom. So maybe even, I don't know, 15 rem. 15 rem is too huge. Yeah, 15 rem is extremely huge. Okay, so maybe, I don't know, 10 is going to be quite okay. 10 rem. And I'm noticing something weird about this section. This space here, it's too huge compared to this space here. I don't know. Am I the only one seeing that? The space here to the bottom, the space here at the bottom and at the top. Okay, I think it's okay. I don't know, maybe my eyes are lying to me, but I really feel like that it's big, right? What could be the issue? But either way, it's not too big of an issue, but let us just try to see. Okay, let us give this reason a border to debug it. So a border of 2 pixels solid red. Okay. This space and this space. Yeah, even me, I also think they're quite equal, these two. Yeah, there is no need for that. So it was giving us a false impression, but the border has helped us to see what is happening. So save that, but I still feel like we need a darker background here compared to what we have here. So this background needs to be more darker, maybe 7 by 7 here. We could have created a variable for this, but because we're really trying to learn, that one is okay. Okay. Yep, and even this font size, we should reduce that font size. 2 rem, there is no need for a 2 rem font size there. Yeah, perfect. So on here, it's quite similar to that. Yeah, I think this is okay. Okay. So background position. Let us put the background position here. Background position property, we set it to center. Okay. That way. Yes, exactly. That is what I was looking for. So background position center, and that is very much with what we have here. Very perfect. And you can make it even darker, 8 by 8 here. So remember, the alpha channel is for transparency. So you can see now the transparency is very much equal here. Yep. So is this responsive? If we inspect this, yeah, it's responsive. Maybe we should just put everything to the center using justify content property set to center. So justify content center. Save that. And yeah, everything is now to the center here. And of course, yeah, everything okay. The small device here, which is a Galaxy Z Fold 5, it's also receiving it very well. Yeah. Up until now, I think everything is working perfectly fine. Any questions? Any questions, guys? Okay. Okay, we're not doing the same section right now. First of all, let us just format everything with prettier. So prettier, flag right, everything in the current directory. And then we add all the changes. We commit these changes. So these changes are going to build the reasons section. Yep. And yeah, so I'm going to run git push. Of course, I'm not running here push because as you can see, the internet is not really supporting that. But essentially, we are done. If you guys don't have any question. We can break for lunch. But do you want us to continue? Yes. Yes. Code spell checker. It's called code spell checker. Yeah, Neo. Code spell checker. And you're gonna tick. Let me first of all see my installed extensions. Just a second, let me see. Oh, by the way, I think let us. Okay, can I really send the link to the extension? Aina link, send you. But can you see the screen, by the way, guys? Yeah, so this is the extension I'm talking about, code spell checker, the one that has 15 million downloads. So it will help you to check against spelling errors. That is why, when I open my terminal, somebody is maybe seeing here 35 problems, and you're thinking I have 35 errors in my code. No, you can see all of those problems are code spell checker, and it is because of this lorem dummy texts. You can see this vocalia, it's not an English word.